Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to the Age of Sigmar Monday show with my three co-hosts. Mr. Nathan Prescott, back from his travels. Hello, Nathan.
Hello. Oh yeah, how's it going?
Good, thank you. How's it going with you?
Yeah, good. Yeah. Feeling limber and supple, something like that. Anyway.
Excellent.
Feeling a couple of words, yeah.
Excellent. And we're also joined by Mr. James Powell on the show. Hey, James.
Hey up. How's it going?
Hey up, me duck.
Hey up, me duck. I'm doing really well, thank you. And also, Shilly has joined us. Dan isn't here, so Shilly has joined us for this review of the Kruleboyz Allegiances and Warscrolls, our first look. So not like a whole review, we're just going to take a quick look at them and kind of like take our initial thoughts, and then we'll do some deep dives, probably after the LGT, because there's a lot of prep. Go on, what's up, James?
Should we just review the front cover?
I would like, if you want to jump straight in, please do. Go for it.
Carry on.
Okay, right, fine. You don't want to do that. We're joined obviously by the Twitch chat. What up, Twitch chat? Thanks for joining us live. Appreciate you loads. And we're also a podcast you guys can listen to, and you can also watch us live on YouTube if you want to. You can subscribe in any of those places or join the Big Dick Energy lads on Patreon. Thank you to Lord Win for resubscribing. I hope you're all well. And we're going to be going through some stuff. Before we do, really quickly, we'll jump into the news section. Because there's been some fairly big news. Aspron, thanks for resubscribing. My first bit of news, though, is Nathan, welcome back. How are you? Last time we saw you, you were not doing very well, so people have been a bit worried. Can you just give us an update on how you are? What's happening?
I just had a cold, like man flu. So, yeah. Still got a snotty nose, but there you go. That's the way it goes, eh?
Are you feeling better?
Yeah. Feeling good, thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah. Everybody, yeah, feeling good.
Okay, good. James, what about you? How are you? Are you well?
Yeah, pretty good. I got to watch your and Mark's little pairing show a minute ago. Get to see who I got to play at the Blood Tithe on the weekend.
Yes.
Yeah. Other than that, all good.
Yeah, Blood Tithe is this weekend. If people haven't been tuning in for that, which we're going to be live streaming, James is in a team who I picked to be the bottom of the whole event. So during my Blood Tithe review, how did the team take that?
Yeah, that was fine. I expect to be at the bottom. Like my games, I'm intending to either be tabled or lose no models and get a draw. However, the team name might have been a bad decision as the kids did the pairings, which was not warned. I was not warned of that. Did feel
well,
slight
I hope
guilt.
in future it makes teams rethink their naming choices, to be honest. Thanks, Typhoid Tony, for resubscribing. Big love to you. Yeah, let's hope. Well, good luck to you, James. Who's in your team? Do you want to give him a shout out before we carry on?
It's me, Simon Eccles, James Hobbs, and Andy Thornley.
The guy from Derby.
Oh.
Yeah.
That guy from Derby.
Nathan, you've been away for a while, and so I wanted to ask you a couple of questions on some of the news topics that have come up. Specifically, the Kruleboyz book has come up. What are you doing? What is that you're doing?
Just getting a little piece of something to suck on.
Okay, that's really excellent audio. Just need you to know that.
I didn't realise it was that loud.
Welcome to the Nathan Show.
Can you hear it over there?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Spiegel.
Oh, I wonder what all the things you can hear in my house then. Maybe I
No, we can't hear any of that. We can't hear any of that. Don't worry about it. Everyone missed you. Nathan, catch me up. James and Nathan, we'll move into the news section very quick. How do you both feel about the app? The app has been released. Nathan, you and me, old school stands of the original app. How do you feel about the new app? And thanks to Guy for resubscribing. I hope you're well.
So far it seems alright. Yeah. Shows you Warscrolls, shows you loads of stuff. So yeah, that's cool. We'll see how it goes with other stuff though. But yeah, happy enough with it.
Excellent.
I get Warscrolls, which is what I wanted, but then I got loads of other stuff as well. So Yeah, that's great.
So there's some things to talk about. BL6 Ooze, thank you for subscribing. Bell6 Blue, I don't know what that is. James, have you had a look at the app? This feels like this is up your street. You're a bit of a new tech guy. How do you feel? How do you feel about the app?
Have the app. My honest opinion, which I don't think is the general consensus, is that it is 2 worse apps than we already had or have.
Okay, please inform me more of your opinion.
I think the current app, in its state, is uglier than the old one and a bit more clunky to use. I know, like, other people are like, oh, I like the fact it's sorted by book. I'm guessing that's because at some point when they sell us books, we'll have to use codes to unlock each book, so then we'll only have those war scrolls. But don't know.
No. So the current situation is,
like,
just to keep you updated, so the Stormcast book is out and the Kruleboyz book is out. You can go into a shop and pick it up now, or your local gaming store, or the internet, or Wikipedia.
Yep.
I don't know what I said at the end. But if you do buy a book, there's a code in the back, and that does unlock like your allegiance abilities and your command traits and other stuff. Not that there is many of them anyway. And the war scrolls seem to just be free, like regardless. So, which is nice. And you do need a My Warhammer account to do that, but you don't even need to subscribe to Warhammer Plus to be able to have that functionality. So you just have to make an account. Maybe when it's out of beta, you will have to pay to have access to all of that stuff. I'm not sure. But the current state of affairs, if that does change, obviously we'll update everyone. But the current state of affairs is you have to make an account, fair enough, give them your email. Just make a fake email if you want, if you're scared of the data or whatever. And then you get all of the war scrolls for free. And you only unlock the allegiances and other stuff if you pay for those battletomes and if you put a code in, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think like ignoring that, like it's a bit clunkier and a bit uglier than the old one. Like I like the fact that when I opened the old one, it was just war scrolls, and now it's like I open a window and it's books, and then I have to either search a war scroll or find the book that the war scroll belongs to and then open it. Like I just think like for all the years I worked in a students' union, we were obsessed with like the amount of clicks a student had to do to get to something, because like 2's the average, they'd go 1, 2, bored, and shut. So I found myself a lot when I was using the app being like 1, 2, bored. Searching's easier, but I don't think it's as easy as the old one, but that's just personal preference. It might just be getting used to it because I haven't used it a lot. And then the War Scroll Builder, I just don't think is as good as...
Let's not call it that. You mean the list writing...
The list writing part of the app, is not as good as War Scroll Builder. Like it doesn't work as well. It doesn't output lists as well. It might have been fixed because they only messed about with it like day one. But what I found was like I was just messing about with like the Stormcast lists in the new book. So I'd like add a leader, add some battle line, add a leader, add some units, add a leader that I'd fit in, which is probably how I normally work a list out, and then suddenly be like, oh, now I've exported that. It is literally in that order. So if I give someone my list at an event, I'm like, oh, there's one leader, there's some battle line, there's a leader, or there's another battle line I fitted in, or there's some, and a leader, and I just found it really like cumbersome, and none of the battle lines worked.
Well, don't worry about that, because War Scroll Builder was updated today. All hail Tony P forever again. I would again like to volunteer to be Tony P's bodyguard for free. As long as he gave me like a dog's shed to live in, I would guard him like a feral hound would guard someone that finally adopted it. So I hope he's well and survived. Yeah, the app isn't shit, and like Nathan said, what I really like, which is they can put that as a quote on the. Rob says this isn't shit, which is a positive, because I was expecting shit, and it's like it's got all of the War Scrolls in, I think, or it might not have some. And by the way, everyone's like, oh, it doesn't have the Nurgle one in, and I'm like, I wonder which Battletome's fucking next. Like, can you imagine? Like, they were in the studio and they were like, yeah, do I put the old Nurgle ones in? Like, no, we'll just call it a bug, and then it'll be fine. Like, like they literally couldn't be asked to even pretend what the next one was, which I fucking love. Like, that's a level of like half a job that I reckon me and Nathan, as builders who use packers a lot, really respect. You're like, did you measure something a bit wrong? Just stick a bit of wood in. It's called packing. James, you're not a builder, so you won't get this, but all builders who are listening to this right now are like, yeah, fucking, you look at the best piece of engineering in the world, and it's definitely got a builder who's put a bit of wood between two bits that are meant to be connected, and he's gone, that'll hold it. That'll fucking hold that for 100 years. That's what that'll do. Nathan, thoughts?
Yeah, sounds good. A little bit of packing. Never
Didn't
hurt
anyone.
anybody.
Yeah. You just have to look hard. There's a roadmap. You just have to look. You just have to read between the sides. That's what you have to do. Hello, everyone. By the way, thanks everyone for being here. Evening, Lofthammer. I saw a great picture of Lofthammer recently. Oh yeah, I was watching a Kirioth video, and Lofthammer was in it, and I was like, "What the hell?" But the app does what I want it to do, which is have the war scrolls in, which is all I need it to fucking do. Today, I wrote a list for someone really quickly. I looked at the war scrolls in the app, and I went on War Scroll Builder, and life felt like it had returned to normal. It felt like COVID was over. It's not, obviously, but it just felt like the world was at peace again. Like, it was right. I don't know how everyone else feels, but I was like...
The fact that you can buy War Scrolls is the defining feature in modern society.
I don't know about anyone else. Nathan, come on, back me up on this.
Yeah, pinnacle of civilization, that is.
I don't need anything else.
Access to War Scrolls.
All I need, I just want to read the War Scroll. Like, I don't even give a fuck what format it's in, dude. Like, everyone's like there was a guy on Reddit who did like a redesign of it. I would show you my actual phone, but I can't. So there you guys. So I'll see for you guys. So he did like a redesign, and I don't know who did it. So I'm sorry about that. Maybe it's on. It doesn't say. But he just redesigned it, and he's like, I did this in a day, and it's much cleaner. Look, it's got all of the data in one image. You don't have to scroll through a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Really clean, really fucking neat, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. They're not going to do, but I respect the fuck out of that. That's brilliant. Like, well done. Hire that guy. They can't afford him. They underpay all their staff. But like, anyway, but you can look at the War Scrolls, and I don't even care what format it's in. My point, like that version would be better, and I'd be happy about it. But the version I've got's fine, really. And it's very memeable. It's got a lot of like screen cap memes available because it's so big, the font. So I'm quite excited about it. Anyway, so the app is out, and I think that's really the only news that's going on in Age of Sigmar at the moment. Oh, there's a Warcry warband, or they're redoing Warcry, but no one cares at all, with a Kruleboyz release box thing. Did you see that? Well, no, it's got some grots in it. Did you guys see this from the weekend from Gen Con?
All right.
No, it's really.
The spider ones,
no,
isn't it?
you're all wrong. What's Shilly's take on the criticism? Shilly is currently fucking silent, but I'm sure he'll have something to say.
He's not allowed out.
Side eye. Lots of side eye.
Do you know what? I haven't bothered looking at what like a war scroll for how long it takes to scroll through. Who's got a really ridiculous war scroll? I mean, Archeon's taking the piss, but if you just do Severith, is it? Oh, you can't search for Severith, apparently. All right, I don't care. I'm out. It's too much. I can't be asked already.
It's great app. Great app. Just saying. Can you search for one of the newest models?
Stop talking to me. I don't want. I'm happy, is what I'm going to say, and I don't want any of your criticisms. It's pissing me off. Okay, should we get on with the review? Unless anyone's got anything else they want to bring up before we go any further. I love being able to build lists with the scrolls a few clicks away, says Halalex, then open War Scroll Builder when I want to finalize it. You can use the app to like add the points together if you want before you do go on War Scroll Builder, which is kind of nice. I don't know if you guys have tried that yet.
Yeah, I think that's basically the only way I do it if I want. Like, it's the only reason to use it, I think, because the format's horrible.
It is horrible. Have you seen the outputted text files?
Yeah, I outputted one and then sent it myself and then cried a bit. And then I think it even deleted the message because I didn't like looking at it.
You should have sent it back to the company that sent it to you. Sure.
Yeah, probably. I should have just copied and pasted it into like the feedback thing and been like, "This is my problem."
Okay. I think I
left
did
it
check
there.
my spelling, Cabbage, but appreciate you for double checking for me. I put the right image? Have they put the right image of the prosecutors of Stormcloud Javelins? I don't know or care. But I appreciate you, loads, Hunt Rad, for being here. Loads of love. Right, okay, Nathan. Before we move on, and James, we were talking pre-show, and it's something, before we talk about the Kruleboyz, and we've done pretty well, we haven't gone too far into this so far, I need some updates from you both, because you weren't here for the Stormcast kind of first look last week, and James, you've had some thoughts post it. I know you've had a little bit of a look, Nathan. You got any thoughts on the Stormcast stuff specifically? You did say you had some previously.
Just hopefully that they've given us the rules for the dragons, but hopefully the models never come and we never get to face them on the table.
How do you feel about them rules-wise?
Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. It's just like crazy. It's just a different. They should be in a different game. Just dragons only game.
Only game.
Maybe that's the next FAQ. Please remove dragons from Stormcast Eternals Battletome. Please put into 40k.
James, you've had some more thoughts. You said you've been looking at them ever since. I had a really good message off my friend Joe Purcell. We all know Joe Purcell, lovely. I was speaking to him last week about the dragons, and then he said, "Rob, I finally read the Dragon War Scroll today," and I was like, "Oh boy." He was like, "They're pretty good," and I was like, "Yeah, they are pretty fine." And then
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we'll see him flying dragons around.
He then messaged me like 15 minutes later. I've just read the command trait, and I was like, "Oh God." So, like, Nate, you're normally the.
Then he saw the
points. You're normally the guy that talks me down in these conversations, right? Normally, when we're on, like you'll be like, "Oh, it's not that bad. I don't know how it feels." I didn't really talk about the power last week. I more talked about the fact that I found that how do you feel about the fact that they've simplified the Battletomes? That's something I want to ask you, because they have simplified them. Like, allegiance abilities are obviously super stripped back, spells are super stripped back, are not as impactful. Command abilities being gone off war scrolls and just being like once per battle. I'm really fascinated on what your take is on that, because I'd love to hear it.
As a simple fellow myself, I'm not that bothered about it, really. Yeah. I mean, quite what you want from a game really is I don't know. There's a special phrase that people use, but basically where you've got simple rules but complicated, but it can add. The game has got depth, so
easy to learn, difficult to master.
That's something like that. Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, so to me, if the rules are simple but they're well thought out and there's depth, and if all the rules are have consequence in the game, then that's cool. That rather than having a load of rules that have got no real effect on the game because they're just useless, then that's great if they're going to cut that off. But as long as they're there, sometimes it feels like you lose a bit of the character though. Of the game, so yeah, it's I guess it's a difficult line, but I mean that's what they're doing, so they should be able to tread the line nicely. Nice simple rules with loads of character, and none of this fucking Stormcast bullshit with the dragons.
If it makes you feel any better, everything else is pretty boring. If that makes you feel, I see. Off the back of last week, interesting, right? Like some pushback on me, like not being a fan of it being simpler. But I don't think simpler was really what my point was last week, and I'll reiterate. It is simpler, which I think is genuinely a positive. I think that's pretty good, yeah. But I do feel like losing flavour, and I kind of tweeted a bit about it this week. I talked about the old Wrathmonger's War Scroll, or Pete in the chat. I think Pete Pratt was talking to me a second ago. He discussed like he was talking about the old Starseer War Scroll, right, and how fun that was. Yeah, like it's there's some fun. Like you can have simple but fun. Like when you don't do anything with your war scroll, like and Grubby's saying in the chat, boring is just boring. Like you can have complicated and interesting, and you can have simple and interesting. But boring is just boring. And from a game design perspective, possibly the biggest criticism that you can throw at something is you just bored me with a war scroll. I think like the Slangor one is a good example, right? Like they're like beasts, twisted. Okay, if I do the narrative, they're like deformed goat beasts, twisted by one of the 4 major chaos gods. Well, there are 5, but like major chaos gods into like an amalgamated pleasure demon. Yeah, and they were able to come up with no single one fun rule that was like, do you know what I mean? Like when they get hit by a 6, like every time you hit them with a 6, you take a mortal wound because they love it, yeah, or they grow a fucking dick, whatever, yeah, something fun, yeah, they get slightly more erect, and when they've taken 4 6s to hit, they sperm on you. This is too graphic. I've gone straight to penises, yeah, right, which is. I know there's time for a penis joke, but. Boring is probably what I would describe last week's as, without the dragons, right? We're talking about when they eventually put the points up on the dragons, it will be so fucking dull to talk about. But anyway, that's kind of my thoughts from last week. And I don't know, we're only going to do Kruleboyz this week so far, but Nathan, I know you've looked at Bone Splitters and Iron Jaws a bit. Have you got any thoughts on... Have you had any thoughts on those parts of the book?
Yeah, I've had a little look at the Bone Splitters. I'm not 100% sure on that side. I'll have to have another look. They do look like they're very corralled into what sort of lists you can play with them. So maybe that's a bit boring, and I don't know how competitive they'll be anyway. And then the Iron Jaws look pretty fun, I thought, really. You've got like the units have got fairly distinctive uses, and there's lots of interesting things you can do with the command abilities and the spells and stuff as well. So yeah, I think the Iron Jaws will be fun to play with.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more mega bosses on War Crusher as well.
Why do you think?
Because they're so good. Yeah.
What did they get that made them more fun?
Everything. They're really destructive. They're still super fast. Really destructive. They can do the 3 command ability thing. That's great. I mean, that's 3 mighty destroyers in a turn. Like bang, and then you can activate another one to do it as well. So you could have six things mighty destroying across the board at you. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, there's loads of little combos as well where you can Hannah Gork something up and then mighty destroyers it and do stuff.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Sweet.
It's
sweet.
It's interesting. Yeah, there's some fun stuff.
We'll revisit that like in later shows in the because I thought doing it all would be a bit much, so I just thought we'd just break them down into the 3 basically. Well, the 3, and then maybe we'll throw a big war in at the end. So should we talk Kruleboyz? James, you ready? Okay.
Yeah, let's do
all
it.
Right, let's talk Kruleboyz. Let me just.
How many dragons do they have?
I mean, you could stick an orc on a dragon and just call it. I don't know. You could stick I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. None. They got vultures though.
No,
Yeah.
okay.
Have you tried that?
They have.
Okay. I'm quite excited about this. I'm quite excited about this army, but again, I think it because of the simplicity. Like I talked about, the design is poor in Age of Sigmar 3 and Battletomes that I've seen so far, because they really structurally push you to only positive war scrolls. And what I mean by that is if your war scroll is in Age of Sigmar 3, if your war scroll was cheaper, or more points efficient than it should be, where it was costed, obviously it was something that you took. But that wasn't one of the only things. Really, it was about overlapping buffs as well, allegiance abilities and other stuff that really pushed some. So maybe the most points efficient example probably would be Eels for a long time. Because their war scroll was just good in of itself, and the allegiance abilities didn't really matter. And I think maybe the where allegiance abilities really make sense is when you look at and then overlapping buffs is where you look at Skink, clouds or skink hordes as we saw them previously, because they were obviously super good in Fangs of Sotek, but also the overlapping buffs in addition really pick them up quite aggressively. Whereas now Age of Sigmar 3 Battletomes, the allegiance abilities do very little really to like make you move outside of whatever's going to be the most efficient war scroll, or even just good war scroll, because it has rules versus no war rules. In my opinion, a statement of fact as opinion, not an actual fact. But that's what I think so far. Any of you two disagree with that at the moment? Nathan, got any thoughts?
I think most of the stuff in the book is usable, but obviously there's just something that's really obvious, that's really easy to play and good. I think everything is pointed quite aggressively, you could say. Like everything is pretty cheap for what it does if you compare it to other books. So on the Kruleboyz side, so I think the Kruleboyz people should be pretty happy. There's obviously the shooting list is just head and shoulders above everything else at the moment, because shooting is bringing a gun to a knife fight. So
yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about why we think maybe that's the situation, right? So, Kruleboyz battle traits. There are 3 sub factions: Grinning Blades, Big Yellows, and Skullbugs. That'll probably be the last time I ever say Skullbugs. But there are Grinning Blades and Big Yellows. They've got a venom encrusted weapons, or as it's known, View. Have you seen people calling it View? VEW. I'm going to use my View. Have you heard that yet? No, you haven't.
What?
You haven't
No.
seen that. You haven't seen that. So, if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made by a Kruleboyz Orruk, this is important, not its mount, is a 6, the attack causes a number of mortal wounds equal to the target's to the weapon damage characteristic of that attack sequence, and then the attack sequence ends, right? There are ways to buff this in a couple of different ways, which we'll talk about in a moment. We'll talk about when we get to them. But yeah, the venom encrusted weapons, or a View. But apparently no one's enjoying that.
Are you trying to get that
no,
to catch on?
I just trying to spice it up a bit, James. Just trying to spice it up. I understand that when I deliver like the not as exciting news, I'm like, hey, the game's just going to become about efficient war scrolls that you can just spam, even more so than any other edition of the game. People are like, Rob, fuck off, man. Like, can I not just have a good time? Like, you can have a good time. Take what you like. It's not my fault that that's the conclusion I've drawn. Anyway, so that's brilliant, right? Because it's okay. Like, you've got some units it's going to work really well on.
It's good.
But it is random, right? It's a bit like the Nighthaunt charge. You're like, fun when you get it, but when you don't get it, meh.
Yeah, and you need units with a load of
or
dice,
big
don't you?
attacks for really exciting, like happy moments where you're like, ho, 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 this is going to be so good if I roll a 6. Nathan, what are you saying?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's pretty good. I think it's quite a powerful ability, especially as you can buff that roll, and you can buff the number of wounds that they do. So yeah, and there's a couple of monsters that get it on the mounts as well.
Okay,
so,
yeah, that's true. Right, so Kruleboyz War. Once per battle in the combat phase, you can pick a friendly Kruleboyz general to fight. You can say they are calling Kruleboyz War, and if you do so, you pick 2 other friendly Kruleboyz units, wholly within 18 inches of that general, that have not yet fought in the combat phase. That general and the units you pick to fight, one after the other in the order of your choice. So you get a bit of an always strikes first once per battle across your army. Nath, how you feeling about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's not particularly overpowered, but it's once per battle. So you're going to have one combat phase where you're going to want to really push it home, and so then using that rule. But otherwise, I mean, they're not really that much. We've already mentioned they're quite a good shooting army, so you're unlikely to be worried too much about that, to be honest.
Okay.
In my opinion.
That's.
No, but if you do decide to go with a combat-y type army, because there's some interesting monsters, you could do that. And yeah, it's not going to be top competitive, but it's going to be, you're going to have fun.
What was the
playing with
Kruleboyz
that, I
War?
reckon.
Yeah, because like it's been pointed out in the chat, you could also use it defensively if you wanted to, as you're charged, to activate before your opponents, which I think is fun. You're going to need those units to fight that are going to be good.
You can't use your opponent will still fight first.
Once per battle in the combat phase, when you pick a friendly Kruleboyz general to fight, you can say that they are called.
So it's when you pick your general to fight. So if they charge you, they'll obviously have.
But then
first
you can have
activation.
3 after that.
Then you can.
But
have
if they
3 in
kill your
response.
one general, then you can use it.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Okay, so I don't think that's bad at all if you wanted to build yourself a fighting force, and having that in your back pocket is quite nice. Dirty tricks. So after players have received this is phenomenal. After players have received their starting command points, and I mean it's interesting and fun, not necessarily super strong, because I need to make sure I differentiate for people now what I mean. Fun is what I'm looking for. Strength, I could already tell you what that is. We can smooth brain strength. After players have received the starting command points before the start of the first turn, you can pick one of the following dirty tricks to employ during battle. Now you've got Noisy Racket. Subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made by enemy units in the first battle round. Then you've got Lethal Surprise. Roll 3 dice for each 4+. You can pick one different terrain feature or different objective that is not wholly within the enemy territory. Secretly note it down. The first time an enemy unit finishes a move within an inch of that terrain feature or objective, roll a dice. On a 2+, the unit suffers D6 mortal wounds. Dun dun dun. So that's Lethal Surprise. And then you've got so many roll 3 dice on a 4+, then on a 2+. If they get near, roll a d6, 1 mortal wound. Thanks. I don't care. I don't know. We'll talk about it in a minute. And then Disappearing Act. Roll 3 dice for each 4+. You can pick one different enemy unit on the battlefield that has not been reinforced. Then roll a dice for each unit you picked. If the roll is greater than the unit's wounds characteristic, your opponent must remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up as a reserve unit. At the end of your opponent's first movement phase, they must set that up unit holding the battlefield within their territory, more than 9 inches away from all enemy units. This dirty trick cannot be picked if the battle plan has no reserve rules. And then you've got Covered in Mud. Roll 3 dice. For each 4+, pick one friendly unit that is not a hero or a monster. While that unit is in cover, it is not visible to enemy units.
Hiding.
Hiding. Okay, so which one jumps out at you? Twitch chat, Nathan, James, which one jumps out at you first? Which do you like?
The one where you can force your opponent to put something in reserve. I guess if someone's got like a block of 30 sentinels, you can be like,
oh no,
like,
that's
reinforced.
You
Can't do that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's poo. Okay, that's less good because I wasn't thinking that straight. I'm gonna go with Covered in Mud just because it makes me laugh.
Okay, that's fair. Nathan, what about you?
Yeah. I think they're all got play. But I would say the last 2 are the most interesting. If you've got a chance of getting into your enemy with the Disappearing Act, you could take off because normally screens are min size units, so you can normally take a screen off. So it happens after deployment. So you can just take somebody's screen off, and so if you've got something like a vulture or something that can get into them first turn, that's fun. But the Covered in Mud is great for a shooting army. If you can hide your shooters so that they can't shoot your shooters, but you can carry on shooting, that's great. I mean, you're probably only looking at getting 1 unit Covered in Mud, possibly 2. If you're really good at rolling 4-ups, then you're going to get the 3. But yeah, I really like these dirty tricks. I think they're quite a fun little rule, but they're also impactful on the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that you've got lots of options, which is quite nice, and it happens after you finish deploying, but before the first turn is chosen. So depending on how many drops you are, you can really set this up in a way that works quite nicely for you. which I think is good. The Covered in Mud is good. Obviously, is...
Oh, yeah, it's after, who's taking the turn as well, though, because it's after command points.
Oh, is it?
So you'll know. Oh, yeah. So it's before the start of the turn, but after the command points.
Oh no, but that happens. But
so,
oh no, yeah, you're right, because that would happen before when you know who goes first. Okay, yeah, good point. Yeah. Okay.
So it's proper flexible rule, and you've got quite a good few little choice of things that you can do to your opponent, or do you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it. I think Covered in Mud is probably
unless you're playing Sentinels, because they just ignore line of sight, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So
yeah, but it will work against maybe Marathian the Bow Snakes, and again, you're only going to hide the one unit, like you say, statistically. So like you can hopefully guarantee one unit can be hidden, which is quite nice. The lethal surprise doesn't bother me. The -1 to wound is quite nice. I don't hate that. I think that's quite fun. Because that's guaranteed and I know what's happening during the first battle round. So I think that's a nice thing if I think someone's after me. But it's not bad. I think what I like about it is it's loads of flavour. It's got loads of fun in it. Yeah, where you can be like, you can say like, you can throw a cowl up and say, I'm gonna do me dirty tricks. You could have some spell cards. You can do some little shenanigans. I mean, even Lethal Surprise, which I don't think is particularly good, is like a fun little thing to be like, I'm writing my lethal surprises down, precious, and write them down on a bit of paper, and that's fun. Yeah. That's fun, man.
I think if you roll decent for that lethal surprise, it can be quite good because it's terrain that's not wholly within enemy territory and objectives. So it means objectives on the borders, you can trigger those. So you could, like, if there's a piece of terrain next to one of those objectives, and you get them both, that's 2d6 mortal wounds. Could be quite tasty into some units. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I think they're all good.
Okay, good. I don't think they're particularly powerful, but like you say, venom encrusted weapons is good. So like you'll take that as an allegiance ability. That's not bad. I don't think that's bad at all. Right, so the Kruleboyz command traits, we've got 3, again in our stripped down battle tomes. Slippery Scumbag, this general can retreat and charge in the same turn. Nice, big fan. Super Sneaky, if this general is on the battlefield at the start of the first battle round before determining who has the first turn, you can pick one friendly Kruleboyz unit and set up again anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches from all enemy units, which is great. And then you've got Egomaniac. If this general is within 3 inches of another friendly unit, roll a dice before you allocate a wound or a mortal wound to this general, or instead of making a ward roll for this general on a 4+, pick one other friendly unit within 3 inches of this general. That wound is allocated to that unit instead and cannot be negated. So you have a 4-up ward basically on your general. Which I think is quite a nice little thing, which obviously if you wanted to do that and you wanted to do an Amulet of Destiny guy, you could make 2 pretty tanky characters, right?
Yeah. Egomaniac's quite good if you've got a general that's just sitting there being a buff piece, and then can just get one of those cheap hobgoblin units that are just like 85 points. And basically he's got load of extra wounds.
Yeah, that one's good. I quite like the Super Sneaky one. If you could build, because you could just go all out and do some, you could just go for a big alpha unit, or you could just go for a big fighter unit that you've double reinforced. You just go pretty wild with that. And then also Retreat and Charge is run. What I like about all 3. Oh, go on after you, Nathan. Sorry.
The Super Sneaky one. So that's before. So it's at the start of the first battle round before determining who has the first turn. So it means if you're getting the first turn, you're getting the first turn, you can deploy at 9 away, then in your turn you can still move.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there are some of the monsters are pretty slow. So you could put a slow monster that only moves 5 inches or something, and then his first turn he's 4 inches away from something.
Nathan, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking a bit of a fucking Trog boss, aren't you? That's what you're thinking. My brute Trog. Yeah, I know what you said. Shugo also points out that it triggers before Mr. Lawseeker, which I think is good. You can't combo Egomaniac, with the Amulet of Destiny, but what you can do is you can have one character with Egomaniac and the Amulet of Destiny on someone else, so you can have two survivable characters. Is kind of the point, Guy. That's what I'm going to say. Can you do that on a Rogue Idol? He's got the Kruleboyz keyword. I'm pretty certain. Yeah, Rogue Idol's got the Rogue. James, maybe you could check for us on the app while we continue.
Yeah. No.
Too many clicks.
It definitely does. Away. I just thought you'd just double check if you wanted to. So you could do a Rogue Idol, but it isn't an Orruk. One friendly Kruleboyz unit. It only has to be one friendly Kruleboyz unit is all it has to be.
Yep. Kruleboyz, Iron Jaws, Bone Splitters. It is a unit size of one. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't have two of them.
Thanks.
in a unit.
But that's correct. The idol doesn't get view. The Rogue Idol doesn't get venom encrusted weapons, or view for short. I know it's not an Orruk. It's only the Urruks that get it. But again,
what about the mounts?
What about the mounts? No,
they get it.
No, unless there's two mounts that do.
All right. But my point is all three make your whole army play differently. Run and charge is great, super sneaky is great, and egomaniac is great. So 3 great command traits there. So really good, really good. Much happier than reading 6 terrible ones, but much better than reading the Stormcast ones where they were like, I guess I'll take -1 to wound on monsters, because what the fuck else would I do? Right. So then the Kruleboy Artifacts of Power, you've got Eyebiter Ash. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can say that the bearer will hurl the Eyebiter Ash at a foe. If you do so, you pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer and roll a dice. On a 1 to 2, nothing happens. On a 3 to 4, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit for the rest of that phase. And on a 5, you subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit for the rest of the battle. It's pretty good. You just spit in someone's eye. I'm happy with that. No? James?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spitting on people is rude, I think.
You don't spit on them, it's ash. You throw ash at them. It's like...
Okay.
Yeah. It's like the bad guy in any kind of 80s teen, when they're about to do the fisticuffs fight and then they kick the dirt in their eye. Yeah. Bit of that.
And then someone that's technically the good guy cheats and does a crane kick. And wins with an illegal move.
Got it. Someone pointed out to me, and I thought about it a lot. You know the Karate Kid, right? Nathan, you must have seen the Karate Kid. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of
so
different
Karate Kid
ones.
1, right? Picture it, yeah. Danny Russo is just about to fight whatever the other guy's name is, right? This is just like Johnny. Thank you,
Johnny.
This is just like a high school karate championship, right? Likely 0 people in the incredibly packed auditorium, know who either of these 2 children are. It's deeply unlikely. We see most of Danny Russo's life, right? He's got Mr. Miyagi as a mate. There's that girl. That's about it. He doesn't have a lot of friends. And now all of a sudden there's this auditorium full of adults who have jobs. They're like us. I know it's the 80s and they didn't really have to work to buy houses still, I don't think, at that point. But my point is, why were they so invested in that match? If you've been to a normal karate championship, modern day, no one cares. The Olympics, there's 30 people in the crowd. They're like, yay. Yeah.
Do you know why? No internet. That's all it was. What else did you do for fun back then?
Are you telling me, on a Friday night, a couple were like, what do you want to do at the weekend, love? She's like, do you fancy going to a karate championship tomorrow? Just watching for the whole day. Is this what you're telling me?
Watch a couple of kids beat each other up.
Yeah, that's all they'd seen a poster for that week. They've walked down the road. They've been like, oh, there's a cinema on. Oh, but I have to phone, physically get a landline. No, I won't bother with that. And then they're like, oh, we could go and get tickets, but there might not be tickets. And there's no way to check. Oh, we'll go to that karate championship. Because
who's advertising the karate championship?
That's what happened. Everyone went. Mr. Miyagi.
Okay, fine. Anyway, just thought I'd bring that up because it's when you rewatch it, you think, Huh. They're very invested in this. This is not what I was expecting. Okay, right. Mork's Eye Pebble. Once per battle. At the start of the enemy shooting phase, you can say the bearer will rub their Mork's Eye Pebble. If you do so, the bearer and all friendly units wholly within 12 inches of the bearer have a ward save of 5+ until the start of the next phase, which is pretty good. All friendly units have a 5+ ward until the next phase. How do you guys feel about that one? It's once per battle.
It's strong though.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one actually. Especially there's quite a few armies that can reach you first turn. So yeah, you've got something to withstand. Well, not withstand, but help you survive an alpha strike there a bit. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, or if realistically, if you got, I don't know, if you got someone that wanted to alpha strike you, that first turn ability to just be like, cool, let's minimize the damage, and then he'll be in my bubble.
Yeah,
that's useful.
Then I'm going to shoot him.
Yeah, like if I can keep my screens alive, or you pop it and you're like, what they're trying to do is kill that screen, charge through that screen. Let's go. Let's just keep as much as I can alive.
The suggestion in the chat is that if you rub it too much, you'll go blind, but you can only rub it once per battle. So I think that's pretty interesting and telling. And it's only in...
there's not too many
in the shooting phase. So
you only rub it once per game.
Yeah. Just once per game. That's the amount of times you should ever have rubbed it.
Yeah.
Even in AOS 2. Just
so
in case
it's like
someone was worried.
5-game tournament.
That's 5 rubs.
5 times.
That's a total of 5 rubs.
Yeah. That's why Rob always votes for 6-game tournaments.
So I can have 6 rubs.
Just needed an extra rub.
6 rubs is too much, is all I'm going to say. Thanks to Casmin in the chat, by the way. Excited to see you at Blood Tithe. Loads of love for being here. One of our few lady viewers. Anyway, it's fine. It's fine as an artifact.
Yeah. Is it better than a arcane amulet thing or the toad?
No, I mean the chat's pointed out. We're going through the motions, right? Like anything that's once per battle is probably useless compared to Arcane Tome or an Amulet of Destiny. Basically, and Colonel Cabbage, I don't think he's in the chat right now, but Colonel Cabbage is writing an article which I've just read today on how effective the Amulet of Destiny is. I think maths-wise it gives you 33% more wounds, but technically it gives you 50% more wounds or something along those lines. Like you have to. I don't understand why Amulet of Destiny isn't in every list. Like. Effectively, unless you really need the utility of the Arcane Tome, but ultimately these allegiance things have to compete with those core ones, and those core ones aren't going away because that's the main rulebook, right? So anyway, hey Darren, big love to you. So Beast Killer Slop is the next one. So once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy monster within 3 inches of the bearer and roll a dice. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 to 5, that monster suffers d6 mortal wounds. But on a 6, 2d6 mortal wounds, which is fine. But at the start of the combat phase, you're within 3 inches. So it's an opportunity to do 2d6 mortal wounds on 6, but more on average, you're going to do d6 mortal wounds, which will be 3 mortal wounds. Is that the same as giving your character a 5+ ward? Probably not, right? Is the point.
Yeah.
But it would be fun that one time you did 2d6 more.
Agreed. Flavor. You're correct.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's one we'll see because there will be someone that's like, I just want to blow something.
And I hope to do it right.
Yes.
Yeah, and it'd be fun, right? To just have that game where you're like, right, I'm going to play a 5-game weekend tournament. I'm taking this artifact that everyone said's kind of trash, and I'm just going to, in every game, get this person in this position to try and do 2d6 more.
Okay, yeah. So then you got Spiker Seeds. Once per battle, after the enemy unit finishes a charge move within 6 inches of the bearer, you can say the bearer will throw their Spiker Seeds. If you do so, you roll a dice for each model in that enemy unit. For each 5+, the enemy suffers mortal wound. So you basically can spike a horde with some mortal wounds, but there are no hordes in the game anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And again, it's once per battle on a character, so it's whatever. They're kind of interesting, but they're not super exciting, is what I'm going to say. Okay, so mount traits. We'll talk about this in a bit. So you've got Choose Your Ride. So this is any Orruk Warclans hero can take these mount traits. You've got Toughen, Monster only. Use this model unless this model has a number of wounds allocated to it that exceeds half its wounds characteristic. Use the top row of its damage table, regardless of wounds it suffered. It's not bad if you want something to be like extra fighty.
Strong lad.
It's like they forgot about the command ability that you get in the Realm of Gur to fight the top bracket, but this, I guess, means you don't have to think about it at all.
It also means that when we leave Gur,
That's true.
you can
That's
still
true.
do
When
it.
we leave Gur, James, where would you like to go to next? Twitch chat. Where do you want to go next? Why?
Shadow. Because I want a Age of Sigmar like next season or whatever we're calling it to be like only people with 3 inches are ever in range.
Okay.
You want to turn off shooting.
No.
Permanent
You can shoot in.
Oh.
You can shoot in combat if you're in combat.
Yeah. Only shoot people in the face.
Rule: it's really dark in here. Done.
Yeah. Right, so then you've got fasten once per battle in your hero phase. This model can make a normal move. Once per battle in your hero phase, which is pretty phenomenal. Fasten. That one's very fucking
that's
good.
Pretty good. That one combos quite nicely with that one where you can deep strike. Because so then you can get 2 units up there.
Or
you can get your
put
fast
a good unit
hero
up,
and then
or you
deep
put a
strike
good unit up, and then you can put your buff piece closer, right?
Yeah. There's that too.
It's so good. It's so good. Like, it's really, really good. So this is really good. I mean, obviously you get this for free if you're a dragon, but this is good for these boys, basically.
For
mere destruction players. Meenan, when you carry out a stomp monstrous rampage, this is on monsters only. With this model, you do D6 mortal wounds instead of D3, and this isn't once per battle, which I think is quite nice.
Yeah, that's quite nice. That combos quite nicely onto the Maw Crushers as well with their extra thing they get to the stomp. So they can get quite damagey.
Yeah, with the Meenan.
Stomping.
Yeah, I agree. I think that one's very cool on those. Loudon, when you carry out a raw monstrous rampage with this model, pick all enemy units within 3 inches of this model instead of 1. So you can do raw on more than 1 unit within 3 inches, which again works really well on something with a really big base size like a Maw Crusher, I would say. Weirden, this model has a ward save of 4+ against mortal wounds caused by spells and the abilities of endless spells, which isn't bad. Not quite the same as a 4-up ignore spells.
Yeah, so you can still be affected. And the abilities, but you still get affected by, like if it's shackles, you still can't charge, that sort of thing. You can't. The ward save doesn't work against that.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah. Whereas the old weird and you could ignore it. So But I mean it's not as strong as it was. So it's useful, but there's other things that are better.
And then Smellian, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons to target this model if it has not made a charge move in the same turn. So if you get attacked, but again, they're all good. I got to say that I think Fasten feels really good and Meenan feels really good as well. Ultimately. Because you're going to want to do extra damage, or you're going to just want to be able to be somewhere else. I mean, Fasten gives you some great options to deploy. Like, if you're having quite a high drop army, you could. They give you the first turn. They still have to think about the fact that you get a pre-game. Well, you get a hero phase move, right? Like, and so you can just deploy super deep. And then you can be like, cool, I can still be aggro turn 1, even if you, like, they outdrop you, they give you the turn. They're like, you've deployed too deep, and off you go, right? Anyway, some good options in here, which I think is quite nice. Some very good like mount trait options. Again, different to the Stormcast in that you've got some nice-ish options. And I like Fasten because of the utility. I think that's really good. And again, it gives you some nice list building options in the end. Right, spell lore. So the lore of the swamp, or as I call it, date night. Right, so that's what I call it.
But is there any point in reading it? Because on your swamp crawlers just going to be doing their other thing that they do, not casting spells.
Yes. For people who don't know what Nathan's talking about, the swamp crawler has to give up any spell casting to be able to cast a spell from the lore of the swamp. And then what they do is they make you do mortal wounds on 5s to hit as opposed to 6s. And that's pretty strong, ultimately. You probably will do that, I guess, every turn.
Yeah, exactly. So you're just not going to... I mean, you're probably going to have 2 swamp crawlers in your list anyway, but they're not going to cast spells. They're just going to be feeding dudes medicine.
Take your medicine.
Blood.
Drink your
yeah.
son.
Like Jantiro says in the chat, we do got the burbs, though, so maybe the burbs could take them. Yeah? Right? Anyway, so then the Black Pit. I'll read them out anyway, right? Because you might take one, right? The Black Pit is a spell that has a casting value of 7 and a range of 12 inches. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range and visible to the caster. Roll a dice for each one of that unit for 6 for each of that, and roll each 6 for each 6. Sorry, for each other roll that is equal to or greater than the unit's save characteristic. That unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Basically, so not too bad. Ratadron, thank you very much for resubscribing. Not terrible, ultimately. But not great either. It's fine, I would say.
Yeah, everything seems to have a decent armor save these days, so it'll work against a lot of armies. But it's fairly short range, although the boards are smaller, and you're going, where everybody's going to be sort of where the objectives are. But yeah, you're probably more likely to be giving your lads
and
medicine.
also it's within 12 inches. On things like Annihilators, there'll be a unit of 3. So you'll roll 3 dice and 3 up. So like you'll do 2 mortal wounds on that unit. Like it's not like great. Like unless for some reason we end up with 40 dudes with a 2-up armor save, and then like you can talk to me. Or I guess 40 dudes on a 4-up armor save would be okay, because then I'll be like fine. Like, then I'm doing 20 mortal wounds, and I'm happy with that if they get within 12 inches. But I guess you've got Spell Portal. It'll do. And it's cast on a 7. You don't have many bonuses to cast, so. Choking Mist is cast on a 7, again, and range of 24 inches. If successfully cast, you pick a point on the battlefield within range and visible to the caster. All units within 6 inches of that point are affected by Choking Mist until the start of your next hero phase. While this unit is affected by Choking Mist, you subtract 1 from attack characteristic of melee weapons used by it to a minimum of 1, and it cannot run, which is genuinely pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, it is good. It affects your own units as well as theirs, unfortunately, because if you're going to reduce the attacks of a melee unit, then you're probably expecting to be fighting it, so you don't want to get within 6 of that point. So you're going to have to be very careful where you plonk the thing of that to keep your unit out of range of it, but still be able to engage them and have them at -1 attack. So it's quite a difficult one to use, and then unless you just want to stop them running, I guess, then it's fine. Forget about the attacks thing and just try and stop
Making
people
stop
running
running
around.
is really nice, like in the right situation, like genuinely very good. And like, go on.
Yeah, it's good range as well.
And also, quite excitingly, you could do a really cool, like, we could talk to James and we could get, James, how difficult would it be to make objective markers that are mist, that are 6 inches in diameter?
I'll just get some not like dirty varnish and
it's
spray
perfect.
Some of the ones we've got.
Just do that for me. That would be really lush. Thank you. I think this is a good spell. It's cast on 7. It's got good range though, and again it affects your opponent. So I think it's nice. I'm a fan of it. Sneaky Miasma.
Well,
I
well.
know. Sorry, I mean like it gives you some like long range utility. Is what I'm trying to say. Sneaky Miasma is cast on a 6 and a range of 18 inches. If successfully cast, you pick 1 friendly Kruleboyz monster within range and visible to the caster. That monster can make a normal move, which is amazing. Like, because you have another normal move in your little arsenal of, like, I'm redeploying a unit, I've normal moved a monster, now I'm with my mount trait, now I'm normal moving another monster. Like across the board, like you can really push a lot of monsters your opponent early. When they get there, they're not going to do tons, but like like you can do that, which is quite exciting. And you've got some like fun stuff you could do there. I like that, right?
Oh, well, you can cast it on the monster that's moved using the other thing, and then now it's moving twice in the hero phase, going all over the show.
You could also do that if you wanted to. I don't know why you would need that much movement. to be honest. Why I don't-
Well, some of them are quite slow. So
What's
might want to be
quite
able to
slow?
move it about 10
Quite
times
slow,
to get it
James.
somewhere.
We haven't quite.
5
quite.
inches.
Nice.
Go on.
Wait, it's not a monster anyway,
No.
so you can't use it on that. You can't use it on the Maya. So you can only use it on the sludge thingamajiggy and the vulture. Yeah.
Sorry, dude.
All right. Fair enough. Sludge thing.
Yeah, you can make the sludge go faster. That's important.
Yeah.
And also the rogue idol. Good
Yeah.
point. So now we've got 2 rogue idols. One who we've redeployed. Yeah. One who we've moved twice. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Right, Nasty Hex is a spell that has a casting value of 7 and a range of 12 inches. James, could you just check for me quickly? Rogue Idol available to buy off the Forger website while we're just reading this out. That'd be really good. Nasty Hex is a spell of casting value of 7 and a range of 12 inches. Pick an enemy unit within range of visible to the caster until the end of the turn. Ward rolls kind of were made for models in that unit. Pretty good. So you could have a good old spell portal if you wanted to, and you could just turn ward saves off on enemy units, which is a nice first turn, like, oh, your Mega Gargant's got an Amulet of Destiny, hey? Wouldn't it be bad if you got a Nasty Hex? You could just sing a song, like, a nasty hex you little bitch. That's not the lyrics. I don't know. I'm not a songwriter. Someone else do the song, please. James, can you buy Rogue Idol right now?
He is in stock.
Excited. That's exciting.
Oh, nice.
And currently £72.
Okay. This is an amazing spell, right? Do you not like this?
Yeah. Yeah. They're all
They
cast
are.
on 7s,
No,
aren't
Nasty
they?
Hex is.
Right?
Yeah, no, sorry.
7,
Miasma's a 6.
There's a 6 on the miasma. Yeah. So quite hard to cast because they don't get pluses to cast. I don't know. I think you're still going to be just giving your lads medicine, really, than casting all of those. But it's nice to have one of those in the back pocket, as you say.
Yeah.
And actually, the choking mist one would be quite interesting with some of the battle tactics, stopping people running.
Yeah, but if you're stopping someone running, they can just choose a different battle tactic, right? Like.
Yeah, but then you just keep following them around with their choking mist.
I just want to run. I just want to run 3 monsters. It'd be good to do that to Mega Gargants turn 1. If you did that to Mega Gargant player,
yeah,
go on.
Because they have to run onto an objective first.
Well,
turn,
no,
don't
they don't have to run onto an
yeah,
objective.
just
They
stop.
just want to run. Like, that's their first thing that they do. So, yeah, you could break a Mega Gargant player's brain by casting Choking Mist turn 1. They'll be like, what do I do with myself? They'll be very confused.
It's time for your once per battle rub.
Nasty Hex is obviously really good, though, turning off wards and be good in the right situations, I think. Anyway.
Yeah.
Right, okay, let's talk.
Well, it's quite good because they're all situational, and to be honest, most of the time you're going to be using the other ability. But if it's situational, it's good to have it in your back pocket, really. So it's not something you're going to be relying on, but it's there when that situation.
Yeah, but you're going to have to
arises.
put it into your list, right? So like you don't have like a lore master who like and is the voice a lore master? No, I don't think you have. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you do take him, then you do have the options, which is quite nice. It's whether or not you're going to take him, I think, is the real question. All right, so the Kruleboyz Warclans. There are 2, Grinning Blades and Big Yellers. So there is also Skullbugs, but Shilly loves them. I don't. So you got Grinning Blades, which is during the first battle round, friendly Grinning Blades units are not visible to enemy models that are more than 12 inches away from them. Now, obviously, that's great if we pretend Sentinels don't exist, but obviously they exist, so it's not as useful. But it's really good because like a lot of spells can't target you as well. You don't tend to think like visibility. We always think about shooting, but actually it affects like spells quite a lot, which I think is really, really nice. So I think Grinning Blades has got some real play if you wanted to develop a more melee army, especially as we just talked about. If you want, like, I don't know. I like it. I think it's not... Obviously, Big Yellows is where you kind of build your list in your head. But I actually think Grinning Blades, you could build yourself some play if you wanted to take a bunch of like actual lads and do some fighting. And I think that's a nice one, right? During the first battle round. It means you also change up what your sneaky tactic's going to be, because there's no point being -1 to wound when no one can fucking see you. So I like this. I think they also can't imbind when they can't see you too. Thanks, Diadrin. But a melee army of what? Yes, I know. Yes, I know. Yes, you make good points about it being Warscroll Bonanza. But, like, yeah, you could build a fighty army-ish. Not great, but not awful, basically, is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, it's also good for a shooting army, because you don't get shot by your opponent's first turn. Make them have to give them first turn, and so you can't
Unless you've got
shoot me.
Sentinels.
You can walk around. Yeah. Unless you're Sentinels. Then,
They can shoot everything.
They can, James. Yeah. It's really disappointing, if I'm honest. I really...
It's all right. Them dragons will sort them out.
Yeah.
Let's see him do that many wounds.
Anyway, you can't shoot the general of the dragons because he's got mirror shield, so you can't, like, he's just can't be shot, like, he can't be targeted outside of 9 inches, which is fucking great.
What a lovely young man he is.
Good.
Oh,
James, you
and
gonna get the dragons because I want you to. I want us all. Yeah, I reckon we should all do the army. Dragon. We should just all do it and go to an event. Buy Nathan one, fucking dry brush it, just like, there you go, Nathan. Just push them forward, babe.
I can't wait to go to an event, turn up, and look at all the people now playing Stormcast again, and be like, oh, it's just dragons on every table.
James, they won't do that. I don't know if you've read any of the Games Workshop, the design philosophy, but one of the things that they say a lot is that, like, people won't do things like that. That isn't how people will build armies. It would be ridiculous. That's not what people do. Shilly agrees with this point, I think, as I understand it. So, Grinning Blades, big thumb. I actually think it's not terrible. Ignoring Sentinels, like, I guess it's a pretty big one to ignore, but I'll ignore it for the now, just to make us all feel better, is not bad, I guess, in the right situation. It kind of doesn't work well with the fact that we can redeploy so much stuff forward, if that makes sense. Marauders Mark, thanks for following, and good luck at the weekend. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we've got the ability to, like, move a monster forward, spell a monster forward, redeploy a unit, and we're like, yes! And you're like...
It's good in the reverse, though. So, like, if you know you can give them first turn, you minimize the amount of damage you're going to receive from everything, then in your turn, throw everything forward at them.
So it doesn't key in with that. So you would build a different army, and some of the strengths of the book seem to be pushing you to do things like that. So then, it doesn't matter. Let's just talk. Big Yellows. Add 3 inches to the range characteristic of missile weapons used by friendly Big Yellows Orruk units. In addition, in the first battle round, after each time a friendly Big Yellows Orruk unit shoots, you can reroll one of the hit rolls for one of the attacks made by that unit. So, 3-inch range to the missile weapons of the army, and you get to reroll one attack, which is quite nice. Also, just 9 of the Big Yellow Bolt Boys, redeploy them at the start, and then they don't move, then they shoot twice, which is pretty nice. Like, if you want to do that, that's fun. But then they get charged and they die because they're like Bravery fucking 4 or something. Do you know the Hobgrot banner, we can talk about in a minute, is reroll battle shock tests? For what fucking purpose? They start at Bravery 4. What is that banner's purpose? They're Bravery 4. They're like, yeah, they're going to need to reroll those battle shock tests. They're going to die! It doesn't matter. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm trying to be less emotional on the live streams because I don't think people appreciate it, so... Doesn't matter. So, Big Yellows seems good. James, what do you think about Big Yellows? Nathan, what do you think about Big Yellows?
I think in a book where we know there's lots of scary shooting units, it's a good little run.
It's the one, isn't it?
Yeah, Nathan, what do you think?
Yeah, it's the obvious one.
And
because it makes it makes them battle line as well, doesn't it? So if you look at the profiles, it makes your Bolt Boys battle line. makes your guns better, and makes your guns battle line. So it's just like the obvious way to play the
Thank
game
you.
with these.
This is what I was trying to say, right? This is what I've been trying to say about the Stormcast and what I was saying about this. When you don't have anything that overlaps before you get to this stage, a gamer of any level just says that you take that. And as soon as you can try and be clever and do a Grinning Blades one, right? But you just do that. So the game becomes monosyllabic. And most importantly, the book is monosyllabic. The book's the book might as well say, you stupid cunt, take shooting units. Like, it might as well, like when you open it, like those birthday cards that played you a song. Yeah, it might as well have just done that. And you're like, yeah, cool, I reckon I'll take some shooting units. Yeah, right? Like...
Pew pew, motherfucker.
And also, if you take skullbugs, then you're a fucking legend. You're a legend in all ways.
But I think if you're gonna do the monster thing, then the skullbugs might be the one.
On a dice roll, it makes you -1 to hit. Give a fuck.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? Take the other ones? I'm saying if you're taking the monster mash.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. If we're doing the Monster Mash, but we could, but what?
Everybody's doing the monster, so you can play the song that I can't sing because John will shout at me again.
Anyway, but like you have to read like what the book is telling you to do, like, and it's saying do this. So off we go to do that. Right, let's go look at units, shall we? We could talk about battle tactics and grand strategies, but there's no point talking about them because basically they're harder to achieve or they're slightly different to what you achieve in the core battle tactics or allegiance or grand strategies. So why would you, like, you can take them or not take them? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like Nathan, I suggested last week maybe a tournament in a year's time that you could only choose your battle tactics and grand strategies from your book first. What do you think about that?
Fair enough, but I mean, the ones that I've seen, particularly with the grand strategies, are very skewed to a certain list. So it would really force you down a list path, wouldn't it? And then some of the battle tactics, like I thought the Stormcast ones, the battle tactics in there were quite good. I've not really looked at these ones.
Okay, so the Orruk Warclans one.
Like it gives you more options, doesn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah, the Kruleboyz. Go on, after you.
Yeah, I think between the different books, I think the battle. I think they're more unbalanced.
I agree.
Really.
I agree.
Yeah. So it would really make some armies a lot stronger and other ones a lot weaker if you just went down that route. So far, from what we've seen, I think we've only seen 4 sets, and some of them have got different numbers of ones as well.
They have. That's my favourite bit.
Yeah.
That's my favourite bit, is that they're not equal amounts.
No, yeah. So it's just, it would be a nice idea if they had done that and they were more balanced, but yeah, I don't think they're balanced enough. So I don't think
it would polarize your army more, right? Yeah, I agree with that. Like the one for the Kruleboyz, as Nathan's like to discuss what Nathan's talking about. If you're doing Kruleboyz, so your general has the Kruleboyz keyword in and out, lads. When the battle ends, you complete the strategy. If the general has not been slain and fewer than half of the units in your starting army have been destroyed, so like kind of okay for a shooting army, I guess, but like it's so random. You're like, I can't control that at all. Like there's no way to build a list that does that, right?
No, yeah, I think the grand strategies, you may as well just ignore them totally, and then just keep an eye on the battle tactics, because obviously it does give you more choice, and they're not. Some of them are not. Some of them are stupid, but some of them are not that difficult. So. Depending on what army you've got. Okay. So
all right, let's talk about the War Scroll, shall we? So the book so far, if you two think I'm not saying this right, or the Twitch chat, if you don't agree with me, I'd love to hear what your thoughts. The book is telling us quite significantly to do some shooting with the sub-faction at least. The Allegiance abilities say that we can do some mortal wounds, which is pretty nice, and we can do some fun shenanigans, maybe with monsters moving and doing some alpha striking, which is quite fun. And that seems to be kind of that seems to be what it's saying at the moment. It's saying monsters can do some movement, which is cool. Your attacks do mortal wounds, which is nice, and you can do some fun stuff with Bolt Boys. Okay, all right, that's what it seems to say to me anyway. Breaker Boss on Mire-Brute Troggoth is 180 points. First guy we're going to talk about. He's got 12 wounds with a save of 4. He is not a monster, so you can't. You can give him a mount trait, I'm pretty certain, but you can't use the monster spell to move him forward. But you can do the redeploy thing, like Nathan talked about. He only moves 5 inches though, so you are going to want to find a way to make him move faster because that's fairly slow.
Yeah.
James, you've clearly never played with dwarfs. That's lightning fast movement 5.
That's just he's got pretty big legs.
He's chonky, but he's also carrying an orc, so that's going to slow him right down.
I guess if that's the world we live in now.
I don't know. The legs look fairly strong. I'm sure he could carry that orc and them 2 big sticks he's got. He's probably maybe he's just got really slow muscle reactions.
Maybe. I've had a question.
Maybe Trogs just aren't that good.
But listen.
But then he does hit on 3, so his muscles can't be that slow.
He's got some...
Maybe he skipped leg day. He's just doing arm day.
Do you know much about the difference between fast... We don't need to get into fast twitch and slow twitch muscles. Doesn't matter. Parker B. Slambo says, as a new player, these things sound overall negative from a core design level. Does that spell bad things for the game in general? Parker B. Slambo, no. It's actually pretty good if you're a player that only plays a couple of games a month or a couple of games every couple of months, actually, because your list is easier to design. It's not overly complicated. You don't have to remember a load of stuff. That's actually hugely positive for people who operate that way, which is a large portion of the player base, I'm going to argue. Yeah, I think it's actually a large... what it does do, though, is it makes coverage and it makes kind of like the conversation about the meta a little bit more stale and a little bit more... polarized because you specifically only build X way, and because you only build X way, it becomes. But then I actually think that's quite fun, right? Like chess is interesting because of the innovation on the tabletop. So if you know you're playing Kruleboyz, you know you're playing the Shooter Boys, for instance. Maybe you fight the monster version, I don't know. But if you're playing Stormcast, you know you're playing the dragons. So really, you've got to ask yourself, I know how they play, what moves can I make on the tabletop? Whether or not that pans out and you have moves against the dragons, Nathan shaking his head, or you have
No moves.
You have moves against the foxes, or you have moves against Kairos and Archeon. Who knows, right? Who knows? But this guy moved 5 inches, motherfucker. So let's get into it. This guy's got moves.
Yeah.
It's what we're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
This guy is fun.
Yeah. Right. Thanks for the insight. No problem. So if you play very little or you're brand new, everything will seem new to you. So it doesn't matter. If that helps you out. Right. So he's got 12 wounds with a 4-up save. Bravery 7, just for that heroic recovery, never helping him. He's dead brave.
So
he's got
brave.
5 attacks in melee, 3 threes, no rend, and 2 damage. So this is the dude on top. Yeah. So this is the guy on top, which is actually quite nice because 5 opportunities to generate 2.
To roll a 6.
And then also Ironbound Clubs. He's got 4 attacks, but he can take D3 mortal wounds for an additional 2 attacks, taking up to 6 attacks, 3 threes, rend 2, 3 damage, which is a pretty significant attack profile. But he doesn't get view, does he? No view for him.
Yeah, these are Orruk players. They're not going to say view to anybody. So no. No poison weapons. No, but yeah, but it's +2 attacks for each wound you take. So he could end up with an extra 6
of course.
attacks.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, I think and it's -2 rend, which is nice. 3 damage.
Really nice.
3s and 3s.
And he's cheap. He's 180
tasty.
points, right? Like he's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah. For a hero as well. So he's got access to his best day ever and all of that.
And a bit of healing. So that 4-up save can become a 3-up save. You could also get +1 to wound. So yeah, he can be on 10 attacks, 2s, Ren 2, damage 3. The issue is though, like, and I guess the Ren 2 is as good as mortal wounds. So it's a lot of output. But we talked about this a lot in Age of Sigmar. And if you are new, like Parker B. Slompo in the chat, one of the things that we've said a lot in Age of Sigmar, well, we've said on this show a lot, is that movement is probably one of the most important stats because you can be somewhere to do X. Now, the board is smaller and the objectives are closer to deployment, which is quite nice, so you can kind of get to where you want to go. And I'm not even going to talk about 36-inch moving dragons because that seems like a stupid thing to do. Or translocating. Did we forget that translocation doesn't have a rule after it saying it can't move after? It doesn't matter. You've got Archeon that moves pretty fast. You've got Ghoul Kings on Terrorgeist that move pretty fast. Marathi moves pretty fast. Like all these things move faster. So what that means is, again, if you're new, they move faster than you. So when they get to choose to strike you first, not all of the time. Double turns happen. Sometimes you're trading units. We talk about that on objectives. But slow movement is not good, basically. And so, like, I'd rather have like a medium level output that's pretty fast than I would have like a fucking dick kicker that's pretty slow. And Gotrek actually kind of proves this point a little bit. Like, so Gotrek probably one of the most outputty units in the whole of Age of Sigmar, right? With his War Scroll, like much more than the Breaker Boss and Maya Boot Troggoth. But his movement 4, there aren't many ways to make that any faster, and he does competitively, looking at the stats, he just does okay. He's not really like the best. He's not like
he's easily avoidable because anything that's
exactly
slow is.
Right, and he isn't in loads of like top tier lists that are winning tournaments. Arguably, he actually reduces the effectiveness of some armies because they don't have the tools. Now, he still appears in some lists, but he doesn't appear in a lot of the winning lists. Anyway, so that would be my my main issue with the Breaker Boss and Maya Boot Troggoth, that he's slow. But I still think taking fucking 6 of them and just being a big bitch and slapping some people would be...
Because, for the points, it's not that many more points than an Ale Guzzler Gargant, for instance, and I would love to have those stats on my Ale Guzzler. So for his points, he's great.
Yeah, I think for his
point. His points are very nice.
Still pointing that out. I would just say his one weakness is obviously so he's great, and of course he can be given Fasten, like it is saying, and you could have 2, right? You could have one with Fasten. As a trait, and you could also have one that you redeploy into your opponent's army. So you can have like sub 400 points, like smashing the fuck out your opponent turn 1, which is fun. I just think he's gonna die fairly quick. 12 wounds on a 4-up save.
Well, he's not going to reach them turn 1 with the double move. The only one that's going to reach them are the redeploy one.
In turn 4, when he's moved his 5 4
this
times,
is one of my
favourite
shows, by the way, because you guys are in for a treat, because it's very rare that Nathan Prescott has fully read a Battletome more than me, and it's also very rare that he's willing to give an opinion like, he doesn't move there, dickhead, he's not going to get there, shut the fuck up. Okay, all right, so that's the Breaker Boss on Maya Boot Troggoth. Next up, we've got Gobsprach. So he's got 14 wounds with a 5-up base save. Love to see that. Moves 14 inches base and his bravery 6, so it's not likely to heal him.
Why is everyone such a coward?
They are sneaky fellas. I don't know if you've noticed that.
He's on a giant bird. He can just fly off.
That flying off is running away.
He?
That's...
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so you should be more confident that you got that ability there if you need it. So
What?
you should feel brave.
Is that how that works?
Yeah.
What are you comparing it to?
If you know you can get it, I'm not comparing it. And then that's crap. You can't compare stuff because they're not the same.
Clip. So let me just clip that for the show. Thank you. Right, okay, let's see what he does. He's got a Bog Bark Staff, doing range 2 attacks, 3 series, Ren 1, damage 3, which is pretty cool. So the Beak and Flesh Tearing Talons and the Stinger and the Backup Stabber, they don't do the mortal wounds, or they do?
They do
the
on
view.
this one, I think. So the units, corpse with vultures armed with beak and talons and a stinger. The venom encrusted weapons battle trait applies to the attacks made with the beak and the talons and the stinger,
That's
even though it's
great.
numb.
So it says that in. So that means you've got 5 attacks, 4s and 3s, but any 6s are going to do 2 mortal wounds and rend 1, and then the stinger is only 1 attack, 3s, 1 to wound, 2s to wound initially, -1, and then d6 damage, but you could do d6 mortal wounds. So it's still like okay output, but not like not world ending basically. He can cast 2 spells, unbind 2 spells. Obviously knows spells from the Lore of the Swamp. He's 300 points, so 15 points less than a Frostheart Phoenix, which is kind of my baseline for monsters now. Is it as good?
And 15 points more than 2 dragons.
Shut up, James.
I just wanted to see Nathan.
Shut up, James. Right. Right. Anyway, so just shut up, James. He's got Summon Boggy Mist as a spell, which is add 1 to the charge rolls for friendly Kruleboyz units and -1 to charge rolls, which I still like as a spell. The redeploy plus -1 charge as like a board-wide spell, I think, is something good. Do you not think? Like, I like that. I like that. Just me. Okay, fine.
What's that? Sorry, the +1 -1
for
to
the Boggy
charge.
Mist. I think like there's something in there, right? Like you redeploy.
Yeah.
They like so then you're like average is 3, so they're 3 away, right? They move super fast. They're 3 away. You redeploy, you're 6 away. -1, it's a 7-inch charge. Like it's on average now. They're failing it half the time, which isn't for a spell you just like whip out. It's not bad. It's not 300 points worth a good spell.
Yeah, and he's got access to all the other spells in the spell
For the
wall,
utility.
so yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good one. Yeah, it's good.
He's got a 6 at ward save.
Wizard.
He's also got Mork Says No. Each time this unit unbinds a spell, the caster suffers D3 mortal wounds. In addition, if the spell was unbound with an unbind roll of 10+, it suffers D6 mortal wounds, which is quite nice. And then once per battle, this unit can attempt to unbind a spell that you can say is using Screaming Mandrake. And if you do so, you do it on 3d6 instead of 2d6. So what do we think about him being sat in the middle of the board, like just unbinding spells or shutting down like a spell phase? Like because I think that's quite nice, right? Like you could take.
He's on a 5.
He does have a 5-up
though.
save, but he also has a 6-up ward. James, come on, confidence, please. Like.
I have none. Like, and also he's got no pluses to unbind, right?
No, he's got the once per game ability. He's got the once per game ability.
Where he gets 3, but then he's still not rolling more than like a croak.
That's correct. And or an Agash.
He's not bad for 300 points. I'll go with that. And like I think there's probably some stuff there, and you get some matchups where actually you could kind of throw him forward and put a screen and take a round where you stop loads of magic and do loads of mortal wounds, or make them think about casting things like Mystic Shield that aren't like as important. So you might just stop spells because they're too scared to take all that.
But then he dies, right? There's something like I can't get over the fact that he dies.
He then dies and gives him a point.
Yeah,
he's a monster,
and he dies
right?
like really well. 14.
How many wounds is he? 14.
Yeah.
Oh,
14.
Yeah.
5-up saves are bad. Like, really
it's not
bad.
great.
He might have, like, he's got, like, a really rubbish Amulet of Destiny where it's his normal save and doesn't save wounds.
Right, anyway. Can he just run away? Yeah, he could just run away. This is his job.
Yeah.
No, it's 14.
He can run away.
He can't run
Not from
away.
dragons, but
He can't outrun
he can outrun some stuff,
dragons.
James. Fuck off. Like, he's cool, man.
He can outrun them by a brute
Anyway, but he does have the Mouth of Mork. If this unit issues Unleash Hell command to a Kruleboyz unit, you do not have to subtract 1 from the hit rolls for the attacks made by this unit that receives the command, which is quite nice, right? Like,
Yeah. I'd also like to point out, because I missed it because I'm only looking at a small picture of the model on the new app, and Rob Kelly's called it out, that he's obviously a good model because he is wearing a cape. So I redact all earlier comments.
Okay.
10 out of 10.
go on, Nath.
Yeah. I mean, he's well worth the 300 points
Is
with
he?
all the rules he's got, but yeah, with those rules, I mean, those rules are great, but he's got a weakness in that his armor save sucks.
He just died.
Yeah, he's pretty vulnerable, but he's got lots of rules for 300 points. A 2-cast wizard and a 2 unbind.
Come on.
He's got
the
some strength.
potential to do D3 mortal wounds,
Anything
Well,
shooting
and
just
combat.
removes him.
Don't forget.
and he's quick.
But
Yeah. But he just
Isn't
doesn't
he like
want to
a
get
drummer boy?
targeted.
in in the army back in the day, you're like, you're useful, drum, and then someone's like, how likely are you to survive? Low. So like they probably didn't expect drumming to happen later on in the battle. They were like, how long do I drum? Like they said to him, he's like, mid battle
They
when
drum to
everyone's
march,
stabbing each
right?
other, what do I do with the drums? And the guy will look at him and be like, truthfully, you're probably going to be fucking dead. So it doesn't matter what you do with the drums. Just do whatever you
just
want.
do whatever you
but
want.
useful
Yeah.
up until then.
I like the
Okay.
drummer was there to like get them to shoot in time and march in time. When they're in battle, it doesn't matter. So maybe this guy's there to like unbind turns 1 and 2, and then it doesn't matter. He's earned his 300
Only,
points.
you say
he's dead.
only 300 points. 300 points is a lot of an army. I just would like to point out, it doesn't matter. Right, so Killer Boss on Corpse Vulture is 14 wounds with a 4-up save for some fucking reason. Like, he's got more armor on. Great. So he's got a 4-up armor save, Bravery 7. He's got 4 attacks, 3 speeds, rend with 2, damage 1 with his Boss sticker.
Yeah, but the thing is, the killer boss that's riding the big
Yeah.
fucking vulture has got better armor, has got worse armor save than the guy that's riding a naked rat thing.
Because
So
vultures aren't tough. Like, to be fair to Games Workshop, if you were looking, James, listen to Twitch chat, you're looking at a dragon.
yeah, but he's
What, a
harder
vulture?
to hit. He's on a great big fucking
Nah,
Have
it's
you-
a bigger target, innit? Easier to hit.
If you trying to
Yeah.
stab a vulture with a sword, it's going to fly away all the time. You're never going to get it. But a rat, fucking just bosh it on the head.
Oh, I
It's
don't know.
bounce
Rats are
around.
wiry. Vultures are just like pick meat off dead things, don't they? So I guess they're not very good at combat.
But
So
we're
they don't
talking
kill
about
anything
survivability.
themselves.
Listen, if you're looking at a dragon and then a vulture, you're going to give the dragon the 3-up armor save. Like, I feel like 4-up armor save is fair.
I think they should have probably had a 2.
I think you're being... it's a pretty big rat, says Henry Nathan. How do you feel about that?
Just
Okay,
more
good.
meat for
All
the
right.
barbecue.
So this guy's okay in combat. He's got the does he do the venom and crystal weapons does apply to the vulture though. So you do have those 5 attacks base, which are 4s, 3s, rend 1, damage 2. So you could do some mortal wounds, and then the stinger might do d6 mortal wounds. So like it's fine, but not great. His abilities are, which is nice, all part of the plan. If a friendly Kruleboyz unit fails a battle shot test within 3 inches of any friendly units with this ability, only one model of that unit will flee, which is great because you basically have got effectively immune to battle shock units around him. Within 3 inches, though, not far actually. But you know, I guess that's okay. Command view, you can use this command ability. You can use the same command ability more than once in the same phase. If you pick this unit to issue the command, this unit still cannot issue more than one command in the same phase, and the unit still cannot receive more than one command in the same phase. So this would be, I guess, quite nice on, I don't know, 2 units of Bolt Boys that are unleashing hell. That seems like a good idea, because. Like that's what you think of, because you go for what can I stack this best with, what can I best stack command ability. How can I economy of scale this, and it feels like that's the right answer because doing +1 to hit on 2 units of Gut Rippers probably fine, I guess. I don't know, but it feels like it's quite good on the Bolt Boys. I don't know what you guys think.
Just get them lads keep
yeah.
viewing.
Yeah, or if you do the monster mash thing, then he can give himself +1 to hit, and after somebody else has given themselves +1 to
Okay,
hit.
yeah, that's
So
good
it's
if
quite
you're doing
good.
the Monster Mash thing. That's a nice idea. The Killer Boss on Great Gnashtooth, as Nathan just alluded to, has got 10 wounds, but with a 3-up armor saves and moves 10 inches, which is pretty fast. The guy on top has got that same profile, 4 attacks that do damage 2 at rend 1. And the Bone Crushing Fangs which do not have view, so they don't have venom-encrusted weapons, is 4 attacks, 3/3, Ren 2, damage 2, so not bad in a little fight as well. And he's only 170 points, so he's a nice little monster.
Yeah.
Well, he's not a monster, but nice little unit. He's got the immune to battle shock if within 3 inches, and he's got add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this unit if it made a charge in the same turn. So he's not a bad little, 170 point character that doesn't really do tons, basically. But he's, okay in a fight, right? But not great in a fight. But okay in a fight, but not great.
Yeah. Yeah, so, you can hold him by your units, and then come later game, he'll be quite dangerous when units are reduced and stuff. I mean, for the points, he's great, and the points for the killer boss on the Vulture was only 240. Again,
yeah, they're
that's
both
pretty
cheap.
good, really.
Definitely, there's no way I wouldn't take a killer boss on Corpse Ripper. He's straight in the basket because of that double commandability thing, because of the utility, right? And like Marauder's Mark has made in the chat, great point by the way. Is a double redeploy is also something to think about. A double all-out defense, I guess, works in the right situation. Put that in your list. He's more survivable, and also you can take an Amulet of fucking Destiny. So, he's way better than the Gobsprat guy all day long. He's better, 60 points cheaper. Poor Gobsprat. I mean, you can get Gobsprat and just use him as the regular dude if you want. No one will know.
He's got a cape too, so that probably makes him good.
So there's him, and then there's Killer Boss with a Stab Grot, but it's the same guy on foot. But don't need to worry about him either. He has got a Stab Grot.
He has got a Stab Grot though.
Not to Stab Grot Plus, obviously. But it's.
Well, yeah. If you're just wanting the guy for the Battle Shock thing, then you'd take this guy because he's a bit cheaper.
If the thing I find, Nath, you're probably one of the better people to actually ask this question of. When you're doing that Holy Within on a melee unit, it's quite hard, right? Because the character, you don't want the character to be on the front line. I mean, you do, but you don't want that character to be on the front line because he could get charged if you don't get the activations, or if it's not your turn or whatever the situation is. You kind of want them to be back a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you do the move and they do the move and then they do the charge, invariably your character is further away for the charge, fails it quite a lot, and you struggle sometimes, or I tend to find I struggle to get that wholly within 12 or wholly within 3 or within 3 because you've done, you've fucked off a massive charge, you know what I mean? Especially with slower units. This must have come up a lot with dwarfs, right? It came up a lot with my dwarfs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking this guy is more useful if you've got the shooting guys, because they're not going to be moving very far, so he can just stand next to them. And then, if they do take some chip damage from a spell or something, then he can just say, only one of you is running away. The rest of you can stay.
But I'd probably just take the killer boss because he's got a bigger base, and then when they do charge the 2 units of 9 bolt boys, you just stand and shoot twice, and you're like, yay, this is good. Okay, so then Kragnos is in here, but it doesn't matter. He went up points, which is hilarious. Right, so the Merc Knob with Belcher banner. 6 wounds with a 4-up armor save. His abilities are the Power of Kragnos and the Breath of Myrdrakes. The Power of Kragnos is when a friendly Kruleboyz unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit is affected by a spell or an ability of an endless spell, you can roll a dice on a 5+, you ignore the effect of that spell or the effects of the endless spell's ability, which is great. He's 95 points as well. And then you've also got Breath of the Myrdrakes. At the start of the combat phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of this unit. On a 1, nothing happens, but on a 2 to 5, they suffer a mortal wound. On a 6, they take D3 mortal wounds. Right? So I just think I think he's pretty cool. A 5-up spell ignore, wholly within 12 inches for 95 points, I'd pay for all day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cheap, right? Most of them seem pretty cheap too.
Yeah, they are cheap. It just depends on where you want your points to go in your list, because you do run out of points ultimately. And it depends on
2,000,
on the meta that you're in. If you do find yourself taking a lot of spell damage, but I mean, I think a lot of the damage comes from arrows and dragonfire at the moment.
Not even out yet. Nathan's like, I'm fucking sick of this dragonfire.
Can't wait to play now.
You're taking 12, James. That's the list. Well, it's 13 technically. 2 4s.
I'm gonna take.
So you take.
How many can I get?
So you take one. You take one character, 2 4s, 2 2s. That's the list, in my opinion. and take them in. I think Astral Templars,
Okay.
it gives them exponed 6s for a charging unit. That's pretty good. On average, it's like, I don't know, 20 mortal wounds every shooting phase. Yeah, it'd be fun.
I'll do
That'd
that
be
to
fun.
Nathan.
That's the list. Anyway, Snatcher Boss on Sludge Raker Beast. 14 wounds with a 4-up armor save. Moves 8 inches. Looks fucking cool as shit. Like, love this guy. He's got 3 attacks which do damage 3 from the chain link grappling hook, and it's 3-inch range as well. His grasping talons have got 6 attacks, 3s and 3s. Rend 1 damage 2. His Noisome Bite is 1 attack, 3s and 2s, Rend 1 damage D3 plus 3, and his Thrashing Tail is gone.
So both of those get the venom
They do.
weapons as well. The
Yeah, this
talons
guy's
and the bite.
315 points of absolute fucking Chad power. Yeah, this guy, go on.
He also looks amazing. I mean, he is definitely a copyright infringement from Games Workshop on the Child Snatcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So you probably want to buy him before Disney remove him.
Yeah.
Other than that,
10 out of 10 model,
10 out of
and
10.
he's also just phenomenal in the game, which is so his attack profile is genuinely good. He's got that 4-up base save, so you can he's a non-name character, so you can give him all the artifacts that you want, which is cool, and command traits. Sludge Raker Venom, add 1 to the number of mortal wounds caused by the venom encrusted weapon's battle trait if the unmodified hit roll was a 6 and the attacking unit is wholly within 12 inches of any friendly units with this ability. So this doesn't stack the vet. The
You
view,
mean the vet?
The view. The men with view. Yeah.
yeah.
The vet.
Right. And this unit is affected by the Shaman's ability for you to be able to do those venom encrusted things on a 6. On a 5. It only procs on a 6, so you can't have this proc on a 5. But it does mean your Bolt Boys, which are damage 2, will be doing mortal wounds, 3 mortal wounds on any 6s to hit, which is pretty phenomenal, ultimately. And he doesn't have to do anything. You just stand there and you just do it, which is quite nice. And it's not bad on a big brick of Gut Rippers either. Honestly, I don't think it's bad. You roll in quite a few dice to potentially proc 2 mortal wounds off that unit. So I don't think that's bad either.
Yeah.
And you got Snatch and Grab once per battle at the end of the combat phase. You can pick 1 enemy model that has a wounds characteristic of 7 or less. This is amazing. And does not have an amount and is within 3 inches of this unit and roll 2d6. The roll is greater than the enemy model's wound characteristic. It's slain, which is just amazing, right?
Yeah, it's good that it's at the end of the combat phase as well, so you can break coherency and do all sorts of things.
So
yeah.
good. So good. And it feels like that Sludge Raker Venom ability is just makes him an almost you would have to argue why you wouldn't be doing more mortal wounds. Thanks, Liam Jordan. Big love to you. Good luck at the weekend. Kruleboyz are cool boys. It would be, why would you not take this guy? He's a badass in a fight. He can auto slay models, and he makes your whole army better. He's a monster as well. So for battle tactics, because he's pretty tasty in a fight. And he's bravery 6. Don't worry about that. He can't heal himself as likely.
He's also well
how much is
priced
he
in
in real
real
cash
money.
money? And how much?
£34.
How much is the burb?
Well, 34.50. 60 quid or something, and more than that, I think. How much is the burb? Let's have a look. Someone will probably beat me to this because
£90.
£90.
Shut up. So you can get.
So the bird's £90. He's £89 for Gobsprack or the bird, and $34.50 for the Slumdrek.
Okay, well he's the guy to take anyway, isn't he? The Snatcher Boss.
Yeah.
So the Snatcher Boss on Sludge Breaker Beast feels like an auto include, basically, is what we're saying. So then Swamp Boss Scumdrek is the named character, I think. So he's got 15 wounds with a 4-up save, and he only moves 8 inches, so he's a little bit chunkier with +1 wound, but he's 2 inches slower. He's pretty good in a fight, and he gets that same thing where he gets the venom encrusted weapons on his things. But his
they're both 8-inch move, aren't they?
what is the other guy? Swamp is the Snatcher Boss? Oh yeah, he is 8 inches. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. But he's got Betmaster, which is his ability. If this unit is part of your army after deployment before the first battle round begins, you can pick one friendly Hobgrot unit to be the counting crew and one friendly unit to be the bet. You cannot pick this unit or the counting crew to be the bet. If the bet is the first friendly unit to be destroyed during the battle, you can pick one extra Triumph enhancement for your army that can be used during the battle. Even if the points of your army is not less than your opponent's army, the unit has chosen benefit from the Triumph must either use this unit or the counting crew, which is pretty cool. This guy's
Just stuff.
What's wrong?
Because that's like the most ridiculous rule. So I'm going to take this model, I'm going to take these Hobgrots, they're going to be the bet, I'm going to throw them forward, you're going to ignore them because they don't do damage.
It's a fun rule. I like it. It's fun, right? Like, it does stuff. Like, you can have loads of fun trying to get the bet killed, right? This is my jam. Why, Nathan?
Okay.
Go on then, Nathan. What's wrong with it?
No, it's just rubbish. It's not fun. It might be a fun rule to the guy trying to do it. The guy sat across the table is just going to be like, fuck off. Stop reading that to me. It's not going to happen.
Can I explain this rule to you
No.
for the next 10 minutes?
No. Stop
For
it.
a triumph.
Go
Also,
away.
like, at the end of that, it's like, here, have a triumph.
No, fuck off. Like, listen, we can't. I can't
No.
sit here and bitch. Like, I don't need rules to be powerful. I need rules to have some engagement, and that's funny. Like at the start of the game, when you move them forward, your opponent's like, "I'm not going to kill him, dickhead. Like, I'm not going to kill them," and you're like, "Well, they're there." Like, that's hilarious. That's hilarious for both of you.
It makes some good screen, I guess. What's those base of Hobgrots on?
Okay, fine. I like this shit. I think like Glitterwald Vagabond, Owen in the chat. This is my jam, man. This is like, I'm not saying it's good, but it's interesting, right? Anyway,
it's funny. I just think that by the time you've read all that, your opponent's going to be like, "Cool." So I kill something before that.
Yeah, like you're right, but
Or does it matter that you give the guy a triumph because he's just spent half an hour reading a rule to you? Just say, look, here's a triumph. Stop reading the rule to me. Just take the triumph and let's play the game.
Hey, I would say
what's the point difference between Slumdrek and the other one?
5 points or something.
5
points.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right, and also, so 5 points.
You'd take the other one because then you can take a mountain trait, artifacts, all of that.
Nathan's so right, but like, listen, James, there's two angels on your shoulder right now, yeah, and one of them's saying, "How fun would it be?" Don't listen to him, right? How fun would it be? Yeah. Also, yeah, you have to pay 80 points also in addition for the Hobgrots, but we'll ignore that also. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. 8 points is nothing.
Yeah. Some people won't be able to stop it if people are being like super fringe edgelords and running themselves Stormkeep armies where they're holding objectives redeemers. Yeah, you could charge at them and they could accidentally mortal wound off your own Hobgrots. Think about that.
And then you'd be like, "Oh, I've got a triumph to re-roll my charge roll."
No, take the time for +1 to wound on your 9 bolt boys. Pew pew pew, pew pew.
No, you couldn't afford them because you brought Hobgrots.
You spent all your money buying this twat and his bit and thingy and
fine. And as Owen says in the chat, you could just not buy the Hobgrots for 80 points, make your list 1920, and then definitely get the triumph. So you're all correct, but whatever. And then finally,
But you get a mini game.
You do get a mini game. More of this, please. Right. So Swampcaller Shaman on Potgrot, we've talked about this already. He can basically forgo casting spells, and he's only a one-cast wizard. Again, why Urruks are only one-cast wizards triggers me. It triggers me in ways that make me want to protest. And I don't know who to protest to. It's a useless.
Okay. You can't use the triumph on the bolt boys. You can only use it on the counting crew.
Wait, hang on. Do you have to take 2 squads of 80-point Hobgrots?
Yeah. One of them's the bet. One of them's the counting crew. The triumph applies to the counting crew if the bet gets killed. It's a great game.
So it's 160 points of Hobgrot.
Right, or the Croc. Listen, don't be fucking wankers. This is fun. Well, okay. Okay, look, we've got two futures, lads. Yeah, the intern guy is writing down notes right now. Yeah, he's listening to the show and he's like, there are two.
None of this shit, please.
What do you want? Just
Intern
every
man.
unit to be like, oh, you get +1 to hit.
+1 to hit. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm fit for the mini game.
Fuck,
for the
Nathan,
minigame.
no! Don't be on the side of the devils.
Well, all this gives you is +1 to wound, or reroll a charge, or battle shock thing.
Oh my
What
They're
we
just
know
as boring
now-
as +1 to hit.
What we
But
know
you
now.
just gotta go through a whole fucking singing and dancing thing, and then you end up with some hobgrots that can +1 to wound.
All right,
That's
fine.
great.
Okay, fine.
I've got 2 points from this.
Go on.
One, we now know Nathan's buying a dragon army.
Yeah, obviously.
2, Rob, how many hobgrots do you own?
120.
Now we know why you like the rule. Continue.
I also own 21 Bolt Boys, so fucking do you. Yeah. Go on.
So 10 of them are going to be the bet, and then the other 100 and.
No, because you
20
can,
would be
no,
the
because
prize.
because the other unit.
Oh, you
they-
can never make them. You can't even make the battle
no,
line.
the
So
counting
you've
crew.
got
The
a-
counting crew could be anything, so I could just give like +1 to wound.
No, it has to be.
No, it doesn't. It could be anything. Read it. Yeah.
Pick one friendly hobgrot unit to be the counting crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I read.
Yeah. One. It doesn't say that. Where's it?
It says pick one friendly hobgrot unit to be the counting crew and one friendly to be the bet. You cannot pick the unit or the counting crew. You cannot pick this unit or the counting crew to be the bet. If the bet is the first friendly unit to be destroyed, you pick one extra triumph enhancement for your army. Blah blah blah. The unit that is chosen to benefit from the triumph must be either this unit or the counting crew. So you can put it on Slump, whatever his name is, Swamp Boss, Slump Jack.
Mhm.
So he can be immune to battle shock, reroll his charge.
We spent too
or
long. We
+1 to
spent too long on this rule. Let's move on.
We have
Okay.
just like they.
Okay, right. Swamp Caller Shaman and Potgrot. He could forgo his spells. He's only a one-cast wizard. I have no idea why orcs are one-cast wizards, but an Abhorrent Art Regent is a two-cast wizard. Triggers me forever. Make them two-cast wizards. Two-cast wizard orcs. Just on my own. But they should be. And then they can do Boggy Mist. And then they've got poisons and elixirs, which we talked about already. So you're going to just make a unit be stronger. Anyway, battle line units. Gut Rippers. So they've got 2 weapon profiles. They've 2 wounds and they move 5 inches, which is pretty rough. No way to speed a heesh them. None of that. They've got an armor save of 5 and they're bravery 5. So you are going to need to have a character nearby, right? That's going to be an important point. So I've got Plus. He's not a caster. Who? The Swamp Caller Shaman is a caster, isn't he? He is. He can cast 1 spell. But I guess he's not technically casting because he's going to be just feeding everyone poison.
He's a poisoner.
He's a poisoner. All right, fair enough. Anyway, that Bravery 5 is pretty rough on 2 wound models for the 180-point Gut Rippers. But you get to add +1 Bravery for the banner, which is good. One model unit can be the champ and have +1 attack characteristic. And in the musicians, you can add 1 to the charge rolls for this unit, which means you've got +2 to charge. So +1 from this, and then +1 from Swampy Mist if you cast it. So that's pretty good for +2, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got now in melee they're not great. So they've got 2 attacks each. They've got 4s, no rend and damage 1. That's with the wicked stickers, but they're 2-inch range, which is nice because you're gonna have a unit of 10, so you're gonna take the stickers all the time. And then the Wicked Hackers, 4s, 3s, no rend damage 1. But you're going to want to get as many attacks as possible because you're looking to proc the mortal wounds, which you can do on 5s.
Yep.
And a unit of 10 is 20 attacks, and any 5s do a mortal wound, like 6s or 5s. Isn't bad. Like, it's the same profile as Sentinels, apart from they've got not Sentinels, sorry, Wardens, apart from they've got 3-inch range. But, like, it's not bad, right? I think it's okay.
Yeah. 20 attacks, so what, a third of that? So that's decent amount.
How many points?
180 points is probably so, but they are 20 wounds, right, with a 5-up save. Listen, I don't think that they're great by any stretch of the imagination. I said this already when they showcased them previously. They've also got a stupid ability where you've got to do like 43 different things in a magical dance, and you might make someone -1 to hit if you're in melee with them. It's called scare tactics.
At least it's not the bet thing.
It's pretty bad.
But it's close.
It's pretty fucking bad.
Let's debate this one.
Like, but anyway, they're not great is the point, and this is really your main fighting unit in your whole army, or in this Kruleboyz only allegiance. So they're not awesome, and I'd say the bravery is the main problem. But then, if you were taking two, like let's say, buffed up units, that would be 120 wounds. Sorry, two reinforced units, that'd be 120 wounds, which is pretty fucking cool. Yeah, you can have the dude near them so that they're immune to battle shock, basically, which is pretty cool. And then you could have two shamans, and you could buff them up, and then that's quite a lot of attacks, proccing mortal wounds.
And if you got one of the big crocodiles near them, then they're doing 2 mortal wounds every time.
Yeah.
They do a 5-up. So then they actually become pretty scary in a fight.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's just the issue that they can't. That there's no survivability on the unit, I guess is how I feel, because that 5-up save is going to go down. Like, all out defense is fine and Mystic Shield is fine, but who the fuck is casting Mystic Shield if you're doing all the poisons? There's going to be no one left in your army.
Yeah.
And then, so your output's great, but then same thing we talked about earlier on in the show, your delivery system's really weak because you can't move them anywhere.
They're still capping at a 4. Like, you're then like, oh, I'll buff these like +2/+3 save, and then someone goes, oh, hit something else in your army with a 4-up save.
You mean with all-out defense and Mystic Shield?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so, but like, so you're going to be on a 4-up armor save ignoring round 1? And you're also paying points to have a character nearby. You're either spending CP to make sure that you are like immune to battle shock via the unit champ, or you've got a character nearby, which means you're spending points to make them immune to battle shock. But I agree with Nathan, like they're pretty fighty, but like your delivery system for them is pretty weak unless you do that pre-game kind of like deep strike sort of situation, and then they're on their own. But then I guess
that's if you want to fight your enemy in their territory, but a lot of the time you are fighting the enemy in the middle of the board.
It's true.
Because sometimes the enemy moves towards you.
Yeah.
Unless they're dragons, then. But it doesn't matter if they're dragons because they're all dead. But then, if it's like a normal army, they've moved into the center, so like some giants or something like that, then they're well within range to get a charge on, especially with the +2 to charge.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah, and I think 20 of them. I don't know if 20 of them with all of the buffs would do for a Mega Gargant in one round. It'd do okay. Like, I don't think.
Yeah, but that's not your whole army. It won't be your whole army. 20 of them. You'll have other stuff as well. So
they'll be in trouble when that giant hits them, though.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They'll be wanting to go in and finish the giant off, not fight a fully healthy giant from scratch.
Fire them big bows at it and let them lads clean up.
They go in and polish off, and claim the objective.
That's what I'm saying. I don't hate them, but we are talking about, like, in order for the Gut Rippers to do that level of damage, we've buffed them with the Shaman, or we've got the lad nearby that's doing the additional mortal wounds on 6s. So, like, we're putting points in significantly to buff them to do that work. Otherwise, when they're on their own, they're just doing whatever. I guess.
Looking nice.
Pardon me?
Looking nice.
Yeah, they're doing,
got nice
they're doing
shields.
quite well. And as Gary pointed out in the chat, obviously when you use the Kruleboyz War, I guess you could, you've got a bunch of units activating before the Mega Gargant goes, so 2 blocks of 20 could do some pretty significant work all around the Sludge Raker, and they'll all go first before the Gargant gets to go. So that's pretty cool. Dr. Imp, thanks for subscribing. I guess the real issue is like getting there feels like it's the problem, is all I'm going to say. But like Nate says, they're going to be in the middle of the board anyway. Right. Or we could just not get there, and our 3 last units to talk about, are the Manskewer Bolt Boys. 2 wounds each with an armor save of 6, and they move 5 inches. Their shot is 2 attacks, hits on 4s, wounds on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. That's the 12-inch range. Or the 24-inch version is 1 attack, 2s and 3s, rend 1, damage 2, but it's still damage 2. When this unit has a Manskew crossbow, use the aim shot missile weapon if it didn't move. So basically, if you move, you
get an extra shot.
You get an extra shot, but it's closer. So you've basically got 17 inches 2 shots, but you hit on 4s, or you've got one 24-inch range shot. But of course, if you're in big yellers, you add 3 inches to that, so it's actually 27 inches, or it's 20 inches.
Or 15. 15.
Oh, it's 15 inches, but you move as well, right?
Yeah.
So you move and you shoot too.
Yeah.
So so 17 inches move and shoot, or stand still on 27-inch range. And then it gets all of the buffs that we talked about before. So I think this is why everyone's really excited about this, because if you take 9 of them, if you move 17 inches, you're going to do 18 shots. Any 6s to hit are going to do 3 mortal wounds, which is going to be pretty impressive. And then if you get shot at, similarly, if you get charged, you can do a stand and shoot, and again, any 6s are going to do 3 mortal wounds, which feels pretty good. Or you like you say, you venom encrust them. You give them the potion, so any 5s to hit are going to do 2 mortal wounds, any 6s to hit are going to do 3 mortal wounds. Feels pretty good because it's only going to cost you 360 points for that 9-man Boltman unit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna. So, how many shots were you saying in? So it'd be 20 shots. 9 of them doing
18 shots.
18, so 19 shots.
The boss, the champion, gets +1, so it's 19 shots.
Yeah. So you're looking at
9 mortal wounds.
18. So yeah, 1 and 6 is going to be 3 doing 9 mortal wounds, and then another so 15 mortal wounds. If
at
you
17 inches.
Yeah. Pretty good.
That's pretty great for that cost. And then obviously, you could reinforce 2 units of them if you wanted to. And that's still not a lot of points, really. 360, 720, and then you take the My Boot Troggoth, which is what was he? Something like, he was like 240. It's about 1,000 points.
He was 180.
Oh, 180. Oh, fucking hell. So yeah, like it's about 1,000 points, and you can run that build. And I think it's what a lot of people are going to run, ultimately. But it's whether or not you can. How are you going to go and take objectives in the midfield? I think is the main problem. Like, how are you going to? You've still got some points, but if you do reinforce 2 units into 9s, then you've got no reinforcement points, so you can't take a unit of 20 gut rippers, let's say, or whatever you're going to use to try and hold objectives.
But you could take like 9 squads of 10 hobgrubs.
Yeah, I mean that's it. The hobgrubs are dead cheap for taking objectives. I think I wrote a list where I had 2 blocks of 9. And then a block of 3, but then 2 units of hobgrots as well, just to be running around contesting objectives and being things that people charge that you can stand and shoot at.
Oh yeah, of course. Because if they're on the objective and then they stand and shoot, like they charge the hobgrots, you stand and shoot with the bolt boys. Yeah, that's nice.
And stuff like that. And then you've got a big croc there to buff that, and you could have the one that we've not talked about, the other Sloggoth for +1 a hit, so that'll cancel out the -1 to hit thing.
Yeah, so that's that's from the Maw-Crusher Sloggoth. It's 150 points. He's got 12 wounds with a 4-up save. He only moves 6 inches. Now, currently doesn't have the Kruleboyz keyword, but that's obviously an oversight, and we'll get FAQ'd in as having the Kruleboyz keyword. So currently, technically not allowed in an army right now, but I'm just going to FAQ it, saying he's got the Kruleboyz keyword for everyone. And in the future, you can sort that out. That's going to happen. But that's the Crew Drummer. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons by friendly units that are wholly within 18 inches of friendly units. Is that the one you're talking about? Because it's melee weapons only, right?
Yeah. Is that only melee weapons? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'll drop him out then and get extra bolt boys in there.
150 points. Yeah. So that's him. So that's if you go in combat, which isn't bad. Again, if you wanted to push him behind a couple of bricks of, because you can reinforce like the gut rippers. I don't think gut rippers are bad. Like I could see 320s existing with all the characters behind them.
Yeah. If you wanted to do a melee army, you could go down the gut rippers.
I don't think
route.
it's brilliant, but I think it's okay.
But obviously the shooting one is probably more competitive.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
You could probably take all the gut rippers though, and then you could take 2 units of hobgrots and then name guy on the alligator, and then you could play your own minigame.
You could, James, and it'd be so fun. Well, it'd be so much more fun than just moving 6 dragons to only 4 inches, you dick. Right? Like.
Yeah. Or not moving and be like, shoot you off the board. Next turn, shoot you off the board.
The dragons would just come up and say, look, I'll shoot the bet first. Shoot the bet. Then I'll shoot the counting crew. Shoot the counting crew. Then I'll shoot.
No, they got to charge then.
The
They're
big
only allowed 2
crocodile.
shots. Let's not over-egg them.
No. Then it's my okay. Then he can have his triumph. Then I'll just shoot him.
And then charge him. Have you done the stats on 4 dragons in combat?
Yeah. I've seen like stats for 6 and 4s. It's scary. Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, right. So the final piece, the Beast Kill Bow, 5 wounds with a 5-up save, moves 5 inches. But again, it's 24-inch range unless you do it in big yellows, which you're going to obviously. So it's 27-inch range, or 15-inch range. Then you move your 5, so it's actually 20-inch range on your Beast Skewer Kill Bow. But that does make it hits on a 4. But if you shoot from 27 inches away,
they don't get the extra shot though. Either.
No, they don't. So there's no point moving them. So 1 attack, 2s and 3s, Ren 2 damage, and then what you do is you roll a dice for each model. Each wound in the target unit, and any 5-up causes a mortal wound. Basically.
Well, it's only on it's the wound, isn't it? Characteristic.
Yeah, the characteristic. That's what I said, right?
So it's not equal to the wound characteristic of the target unit. So if it's like a 1 unit, then you're just rolling 1
But
dice.
if it's a Mega Gargant, you're rolling 35.
That's it.
Yeah. And then you'll do basically for every 5-up, you'll do a mortal wound, basically.
Well, you increase the damage by 1.
Oh yes, the damage characteristic is equal to 2. Yes, plus 1 for each 5-up to a maximum of 12. Sorry,
Yeah.
But
obviously, if you do roll a 6, then it will all be mortal wounds. 2 plus half.
And it's Ren 2. Yeah. So I've garbled how I've described that, and I'm sorry about that. But basically, just read the fucking thing. But you can do a maximum of 12 damage. You can do a maximum of 12 damage for 130 points. But it does rely on you fighting monsters, but you generally tend to fight monsters quite a lot.
Yeah, there seem to be quite a few in the game.
Yeah. I could 100% seeing someone taking 4 of these, truthfully. They're also artillery, so you can only take 4 of these, but I could definitely see you doing that. And just it's terrifying where they're able to. And also 5 wounds isn't bad. You can't really like Rain of Stars. You can't I don't think Rain of Stars is there anymore. It might be, but you can't do Comet's Call or anything like that and definitely take these out. They're also individual wands, which is quite nice. So you can they're good. They're also good, but as Pete said, they're also good against little small characters. I guess you roll in 5 or 6 dice.
I think as well,
because it's the 2 plus the other dice. Sorry, James.
You're all right. I was just gonna say, I think as well, team events at the minute, looking at all them Blood Tithe lists, most teams have a giant army in, and I think the next one that rolls up, every team's gonna have one of these, and then they'll be put me into the giants.
Well, it's gonna be every team's gonna have a dragon army, a giant army, and then a cool.
Yeah, sorted. You could even take the boring Redeemer list that just stands there because the Dragon Army won't have any of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we think overall? There's also some
Hobgrots. We've left the unit.
It doesn't matter. The Hobgrots, they're there. But whatever.
They're cheap. They're cheap for their points.
They are cheap.
It's a cheap little 10-man unit. It's great for screens.
Oh. So what do you guys think?
Beautiful.
In Twitch chat, what do you think? This is your time to have your say. What's your takeaway? James, we'll start with you. Nathan will go to you after. James, what's your takeaway?
I think as we talked about it, there's probably some nice things in there. Obviously, we talked about last week that Stormcast book was kind of pushing people towards dragons to be grim, strong, and I think this is probably doing the same with all the shooting. But I think actually there's quite a nice bit here because there's probably you could take a bunch of them crocodiles and some hitty lads. You could take a bunch of archers. I said there's probably a bit in there. And I think the nice thing looking at this is there's probably some builds in the book that could do okay in some games, probably don't work very well into some matchups, but would be a laugh. There's maybe a little bit more flavour in this than there was in the Stormcast book in its own little way. But obviously we've looked at realistically all the new stuff for the orcs. But yeah, it was all right. It's pretty good. I don't want to get shot by it, but other than that, all good.
Imagine if you're it's going to be fucking rough if you're just running a mid-table army and someone just fucking unleashes 2 units of 9 bolt boys at you. You're going to be this sucks a lot. Like it's just gonna suck.
Yeah.
Nathan.
30 mortal wounds.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. It's pretty horrific. What are your thoughts, Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, other than the big yellows thing, I think it's really nice. I like it. In the rest of the book, everything's pointed enough that you'd want to take it. But then the problem is that the big yellows thing is there, and yeah, we're just going to face some pretty horrific shooting now. So yeah,
The thing is,
a decent.
go on, after you.
It's a good range. Yeah, it's a good range. They've got other cool little tricks. I really like the sneaky tricks thing that they did at the beginning of the thing. That's really cool. All of that. It's just, I don't know about the shooting thing. It's just.
Well,
yeah, I get that. I mean, there's other shooting armies out there. It's just that, it's playing. I don't know. I guess. There are games that are based around shooting, like 40k and stuff like that, but it just feels a bit more like a non-playing experience. Yeah. If you've turned up with your fighting army, you just get shot off before you get anywhere.
Yeah, agreed. Don Mellinson, thank you for subscribing. I would say that there's some points made in the chat. Mamdare was saying, really good point, that obviously it's going to do super well into Gargans, for example. It could do quite well into like low model count and do some stuff there, and they are like a significant portion of the meta. But also the other kind of conversation you have to ask yourself in a minute is you kind of have to say, right, I'm going to play Morathi and the Bow Snakes, I'm going to play Sentinels. Am I a better shooter than those? And I don't think the answer is yes. Like Morathi doesn't give a fuck about standing shoot twice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Morathi is your problem there, but you'll take out the bow.
Well,
you're better shooters than them.
But she's gonna just push those up first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And then they do okay. They don't do well into. They do well into the the Wind Spirits, but I'm not necessarily certain they're going to do overly well into the Sentinel version of it. So the meta they're released into is quite interesting, and they're a nice counterplay. But ultimately, I don't think that they're actually like a top end book, or this portion isn't necessarily top end. Like I would say, like it can play around that area, but not great. But I do think like the Bolt Boy version of the list is very, very strong. But I think ultimately the meta that exists around it just has a load of counters that are just going to like take it off, which I think is kind of maybe an interesting place for it to be. And then I think the more kind of combat variant of it would be quite fun to play. Like I think that there's quite a few tools in there, like you say, with the sneaky tricks. But it doesn't feel like it's the strongest book in the world. But it would be so fun rolling those sixes, right? Like so fun rolling those sixes on the venom encrusted weapon, like really fun.
Yeah, and I think there's some jank in there, isn't there? Like earlier we talked about that. Is it an artifact that you could do that 2d6 mortal wounds to a monster once per game? Like I think there's some fun in this book, and some people will have a great time with it.
Yeah, this portion of the book anyway.
Yeah, this portion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Agreed. But it doesn't. I don't know if you both like. I feel like you do, like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like you build... Does it feel like... Oh, maybe this is just my nature. It doesn't feel like you put lots of different units in. It doesn't feel like you stick a Maya-Boot Troggoth in just to be like, well, maybe I'll use him at some point. Maybe he's like... Do you know what I mean? Like, because you've already got your buff pieces, right? Like, if you go in Bolt Boys, you're going to make them immune to backstroke. You make them shoot twice. You're going to make them so they do those mortal wounds on sixes. Then if you go Gut Rippers, you can also bring in the guy that gives +1 to hit as well in kind of an aura. You've got the Swamp Caller Shamans. You don't really have points left because you're paying to upgrade your units, right? You're paying, like, the difference between Sentinels and these units, for instance, or Sentinels or Wardens and Gut Rippers is the Wardens buff themselves, whereas you're paying to buff the Gut Rippers. You're paying to buff the Bolt Boys. You're not paying to buff the Sentinels; they're doing it themselves. So you're paying additional points to just make your units as good, or maybe not even as good as those other units.
And those chains can be broken. Those buff chains can be broken. You can pick out. I mean, the Swamp Crawlers are a bit like War Chanters. They're going to be really essential to the army, and then they're going to be big targets, aren't they?
Huge targets. Yeah, you're right.
And you don't want them to get separated from the dudes because it's all very close range stuff as well. So.
Well, it's been fun going through it. This is our first look, so not like deep dives. So we'll do that on another show because I still think that'll be super interesting to like write ourselves some lists and some other stuff and come back to it. Nathan, you got any shout outs today?
No.
James, what about you?
I'm going to do a big shout out to whatever that team I'm playing first on Saturday's called. I'll play someone that will let me be at the bar by 10 o'clock. And then I'll keep walking past the stream and waving to everyone that's in the chat.
Cute.
Nice. Dragons.
Right, okay, listen, it's been lovely talking to you all. You're all great. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to everyone on the Wargamer Patreon. Thank you to everyone who subscribes. All you guys in the chat, you're all beautiful. Thanks everyone for listening to the podcast and listening to YouTube stuff. You're all wonderful. Thanks for being honest, Wargamers. Big shout out to Shilly. You did great. See you guys soon. Have a nice day.